Quake greetings. Welcome to another video. Um, at this point, it's been a while, and I realize I have to, work with what I have. In other words, it's just time to follow up. So I feel like I have a number of slides that might not be exactly related, but they relate to previous videos. So I'm going to try to, I always say this, and I don't know if I'm actually going to do it, but I know that, I'm at the point now where I keep starting. So it's time to start and try to finish something. Okay. So the thing is, one thing leads to another. And I guess, my organization skills could be better. But so again, I have a number of slides that I think I'm just going to try to go with what I recall about these slides. Thankfully, you can, with the computers, you can always reopen, your desktop and what you had on your desktop. And that's what's keeping this even possible. Okay. So again, this is more like a uh like a follow-up to the last few videos, if it goes the way I hope it goes. So again, it's different topics, but let's try to see what we can do. I know that there is a video that I want to show that speaks about the Mongol Empire, because in one of the last videos we determined that the Mongol Empire happened in the 1200s or the 13th century. But I found a brother, and this is a West Indian brother, a fellow West Indian. uh, you know, so he broke some stuff down, and I really it blew me away. And I hope I can honor him by mirroring his entire video. Let me just say ahead of time, fair use, fair use. We have to see this video. And I've been trying to, this is one of the topics that I wanted to follow up on. And so we've got to hear this video. And so I think maybe I should just jump in with that. Yeah. Okay. Let me share my screen and see, let's see. Okay. Let me see. Here we go. Here we go. Okay. So what we're looking at, I just thought, let's be clear on the area that we're talking about. Let's see if I should make it bigger, if that works. Okay. So we're going to go to the, this video I told you about, but fair use. I want to be clear that when they talk about America and the very first colonization, we're talking about this part of America known as Mesoamerica or South America. Again, we kind of decided that North America technically is Mesoamerica because Canada would be the actual, what we are calling North America, right? So we'll call it South America, but they typically refer to it as Mesoamerica. So we want to let me make it a little small again, because we want to see that whole area. Want to be sure that this is the part we're talking about when we talk about ancient America. We're not talking about North America. Nevertheless, these are where our ancestors began. And they speak of an ice age that happened, that did cover a lot of North America. So I'm inclined to believe that this is why the culture spread from this key area. This is known as the most ancient part of America. Typically. So I just wanted to show that, this is where Columbus basically is coming. And this would be considered the first colonization of the Americas. So it's that this area, this Mexico, Yucatan area, Belize. We have Belize there, Chichen Itza, Zapotes, Tenochtitlan, Tenochtitlan. We decided we just gonna say Chitlin, Tenochtitlans. Okay, okay. So I just wanted to show that this is the area really where the show is going down, and the beginning of the show. This is where we have like the Mansa Musa story, that they're coming to this area. And then he's known, okay, not him, but Mali becomes known as, the richest civilization there ever was, and all of that, And it seems, my thought is, it has a lot to do with them knowing about what was in this part of America. Okay, which we also found out that was Tameri, basically, an extension of Tameri, as basically Brazil was known as Tameri on the Wolsey-Muller map before it got changed to America. And then, so the first America was actually Brazil. Was, when they talk about the Americas, a lot of times we think they're talking about North America. That's why I want to show this, because we're not looking at Brazil right now, but this is an extension of Tameri. It was known as Tameri. It was America on the Wolsey-Muller map after Wolsey-Muller was basically forced to change it. This is what Horace Butler tells us. And we might revisit that Horace Butler video if I can get that crap to sound decent sound, which so far I haven't been able to get decent sound. Anyway, so I just wanted to remind us that this is really that area that is so coveted by the first colonizer of Spain. Now, again, the Moors, they infatuated with this area. Their first infatuation was this area. Later on with King James, it was North America. So, but this was their first jewel in our crown. This area was very important to them. So this was the epicenter of this, like the seat of high civilization, was this area back in the 14 like the 12, even the 1200s. That's why we want to look at this video, because it speaks about the 1200s, because we're dealing with the Mongols, and we saw that the Mongols, they were 13th century, right? So again, this was maybe a good introduction to this video. But yes. And even today, Mexico is kind of, they made sure that they kept it like it's another country. This Mexico was very important area to the colonizer when Columbus came here. And I think my hope is that we understand that these Maya were not that old of a people. There were people here before the Maya, is what my timeline showed me. That would have been the 3400 BC time frame of Tameri. But a lot of people, I feel like what is kind of funny to me, that I think people are looking for another type of history. Like, in other words, Tameri is being, no one, they really don't want to own Tameri as being an American culture. And I think it's so important because it is a real life timeline that stretches before the Maya, you see, before the Olmec, before the Toltec, before the Aztec, before the Inca. That is why for me, you have to go to you have to go in real life. You can't go with Mu or Atlantis. You know, there's just not enough documentation. You can't ignore the documentation that an ancient copper colored people have given you. That's my logic. You know, that's why Tameri is important to me, because it predates, as we thought, with what Horace Butler helped us to see in his convoluted way. We have a history that goes beyond the Maya, because the Maya is turning out is the oldest mentioned civilization, although they're trying in some fashion or form, they're trying to say Olmecs, but then they give me a date of like the Maya was like the 20, I think the 25, were they the 2500 BC or the 2000 BC? So they're the oldest of all of these, Inca, Aztec, and all that. Maya is said to be the oldest, but then the Olmecs come in 1500 BCE, and for some reason, it's said that they're older. I don't know how they're doing that. Maybe we'll look at a video where that is said. Maybe. So again, this is why I go back to Tameri, because it predates all of this. And I'm inclined to think that Tameri is before we have the Asian or the Asiatics infiltration, Mongoloid, whatever. So that is another reason why Tameri is important to me, because that is not only is that our most ancient, but it is the purest of our bloodline back then, before the Mongol invasion. Which, let's look at that now, please. I've talked enough. I think I've said it. I'll say it one more time, because sometimes I feel like I say something and I feel like I should have said it again. But again, why do I seem to push Tameri on the indigenous? I want the indigenous to have a real life history that is unquestionably theirs, ours, and it is ours. That is what Horace Butler is revealing to us. Why not own our oldest culture when we have documented proof? We don't have documented proof with Atlantis or Mu or Lemuria. It's not enough. And again, if it's underwater, then it's not going to be of use. You'll have archaeological evidence that is washed away. Like say now, if they had copper colors, right? If all their stuff is underwater, that coloring, you won't know who the people were, really, and so that's why Tameri is so important to me. And yes, we have Banapanek, that Mayan temple, but that's not old enough. Yes, Banapanek has the copper colored, but we have older representation of copper colored with Tameri. This is my only argument. I'm trying to keep it real, literally keep it in real life. We know Tameri. We just got to line it up with the oldest continent, the oldest civilization with the oldest continent. That's what, I've said that before, but okay. So we're going to, okay, let's see. Okay, is this it? No, that's not it. Don't tell me I closed it. Okay, here we are. So fair use, fair use, fair use. In my last video, you didn't hear a word that Horace Butler was saying because I didn't say fair use. I realized that is why you say fair use, because then when you go to mirror another video, they're going to cut that crap out. You're going to be like looking crazy on your video like I did. Like got me looking crazy right now. He turned me into Beyonce. I don't know how you guys feel about Miss Stephanie Mills being dragged because she ain't telling them but the truth. But that's a whole other story. Okay, so let's check out this video. I hope that we can build from here. I want to say thank you. I kept you waiting, those who are interested, and I thank you for your patience. And you just don't know. I think I have 2 videos that I did not put out because I was misspeaking. Then I thought I might play the video but correct myself while I'm playing the video. Do it like, do what I'm about to do, play the video, and let me play the video. So we're looking at a video right now. The Mongol Empire in America. Fasten your seatbelts, people, and listen to what this brother is saying. Please do. And again, I want to say thank you to this brother. Okay, so let's do it. This is Reeducated TV. Thank you, Mr. Reeducated. This video was very enlightening for me. You'll hear what he has to say, and I know I'm doing a lot of talking. I guess I'm building up some intrigue or whatever. But again, fair use, fair use. YouTube, hear me. Fair use, fair use for educational purposes only. Fair use, fair use, fair use. I can never forget to say that. Let's make our screen bigger. Once again, this is Reeducated TV. And we're going to hear what he has to say. Hopefully, the sound quality. Let's check our sound. Oh, wait. No, we need it to be as loud as possible, right? So let's do it. Hopefully, I'm recording and everything. Okay. Here we go. The Mongol Empire in America.
Welcome to Reeducated TV.
Fair use. Fair use. Fair use.
The Mongols conquered all of Asia, including Europe, Africa, and the Middle East. Yes, Europe and parts of what we know as Africa is actually Asia. It was divided into territories by the Mongol Empire and previous power. The Mongols were a very diverse and
okay. All right now. Fair use, fair use, fair use.
That to eat and stop at nothing to obtain absolute rule. The Mongols bear many names and titles, and can be easily misunderstood or misplaced due to the fact that some people only associate the Mongols with China. Now, the Mongols who were Moors from Northwest Africa.
Did you hear that? I'm sorry. I was wondering if I would stop or just let it play, but I have to stop. This man, he set the record straight. Okay. We're gonna go back. We gotta hear this one more time. That fixes our dilemma, because when I thought of Mongols and when I told you that they were not here in 3400 BC, what I should have said was, how do we say this? The fair-skinned Mongols, the pale-skinned Mongols were not here. But as we just heard, let's hear it again. Who were the Mongols? Brother going to tell us right now.
Fact that some people only associate the Mongols with China. No, the Mongols who were Moors.
The Mongols who were what? Moors from North Africa. You see? Do we understand what the Moors are doing? They are starting cultures that are starting off basically African. Then when they lighten up the show, now we don't think it's the Moors anymore. We think it's the Mongols. We think it's the Spanish. This is why we don't want, as indigenous, I'm going to say it and I'm going to keep saying it. This is why we don't want anything to do with a Moor. It is too many things. We only need to be American Indians. That's all we need to be sovereign on this land. But if we have idiots telling us that this is Morocco, or what are you basing that on? And you know what? They will actually have an answer for that. So let's not entertain it. Let's not encourage it. But I do want to play this yet again. I am sorry. This solves our dilemma when I say, who was it, that came here? It wasn't the pale skins, Mongoloid. Okay, that's why they can somewhat get away with saying that Mongols are here, even though the brother said they're from Africa, right? Now, you know that, again, I refer to the expelling. The expelling was real. And it had to do with the 18th dynasty being expelled. And it gets convoluted because then we have the 18th dynasty saying that they expelled the Hyksos of the 15th dynasty. Okay, either way, you were expelled as well. So let's not forget that. I mean, that's what I realized that was another issue. They're trying to say the Hyksos were expelled. Well, maybe that was you expelling the people that you were going to dominate once you got expelled. How about that? Maybe there were two expellings, who knows? Okay. But I do know that one had to occur, and it did, with the 18th dynasty. The Tutmoses, the Kamos. I mean, yeah, Amos, Kamos. So anyway, but it's all going back to they became the Moors, is what this journey is showing me. Okay, so I'm sorry, I want to play this again, and I promise to let it play. It's 23 minutes and 16 seconds, and we will get through this. Once again, we thank Reeducated for this. This is just off the chain. This is everything. Okay, he just set the record straight. Okay, so let's do this again. Okay.
We're a very diverse and adaptive people.
The Mongols. Fair use. Absolute rule.
And the title can be easily misunderstood or misplaced due to the fact that some people only associate
with China.
Who
were Moors from Northwest Africa.
Were the Tatars of Tartary or Tartarians.
Listen to this.
The barbarians of Barbary, the Berbers of Berbery, the Tsars of Russia, the Mongols of Mongolia. They were the Khans, the Sultans, the Dalai Lamas of Tibet. They were the Mansas, like Mansa Musa. Mansa was a title. They were the crown princes and princesses, the Turkish Jews, the Manchus of Manchuria, the Qing dynasty of China. They were the Mughals of India. They were the Shahs of Afghanistan, the Chagatai Khanim, the shogunates of Japan.
Good Lord.
Of Egypt and Syria. In Mexico, they were the Capacs and
ouch
the Aztecs.
Oh,
Incas of Peru, they conquered Colombia, Mississippi, California, Canada. and-
California, Canada. We got to stop again. Baby, do you know what we're dealing with here? He just said all of them are Moors. You got to sit with that. And American Indians. This is why we can't rock with this group. They are international. That is why they require a one world order, or they desire a one world order. They figure, look, this is all us, y'all. We might as well be. But see, he said they stop at nothing for absolute power. American Indians, you're my main concern. You know, I'm a small voice, but I think I pack a little bit of a punch. We can't identify with these, y'all. They're thirsty. Why are they so thirsty? We have to understand. These men went around the world. It wasn't because they were spreading love, okay? It wasn't because they cared. This man said they would stop at nothing for absolute power. Those who fall under the spell of the Moors, I don't know if they realize it, but you're coming from a place of lack. You're coming as someone who doesn't have anything, and you need their identity to make you something. American Indians, that's just not the case for you. You represent the one element on earth that will take this ship down. Like the Titanic, baby. Take it down. Why? Because the Moors ain't got shit on you. They know who you are. That's why they went around the world, and I'll say it till it makes sense. That's why they went around the world and told everyone you were the new world. Do you not think the Moors did not know who you were, American Indians? All you need to be is American. And that represents the breach, the glacier that took the Titanic down. Again, we don't advocate violence against these Moors. We don't have to. All we got to do is be who we are. Do not allow them to define you. They created the corporation. The corporation is an entity that redefines you. I want to do a video so bad to help our indigenous understand you do not need any corporation. Government and a corporation, I want to say they're two different type of entities. One is for the people, by the people. The other is a for-profit organization that don't give a shit about the people. They have a bottom line. So yeah, I'm going to say thank you to the ancestors right now. I think we're getting off to a good start, and we're just going to try to keep going with that. Thank you, ancestors. Thank you, grandma. Thank you, great grandma, grandpa. Thank you, great grandpa, great grandpa, great grandma. Thank you. You know who you are. Browns. You know, y'all know what I'm talking about. I want to thank you. Again, I don't want to blast ourselves before we get started, but I think we really have to understand that we don't need the corporation's permission. All we need to do is show them who we are in the original Constitution. Now, I did a video on the Constitution. Don't know if I'm going to post it, but I might speak to it because I wanted to show you that in the first Constitution, baby, there's no 14th Amendment in it. This is the original Constitution. There's no 14th Amendment in that Constitution. We might look at it to be sure, but I was looking and I don't find it. There's no United States citizens as we know. Now, they do refer to United States citizens in that document, but back then I believe what they were really talking about were the state citizens, or state of the states of each state, or the state national, But I do think that they might have set up the Constitution to be manipulated later on, like the Moors would know the right words to put in so that they can introduce, say, a 14th Amendment citizen that did not exist in the original 1787 United States Constitution. And you can barely find that thing online lately. When you look for a constitution, you'll always find the brandy new one, the 1789 and the 1790. You'll find the territorial and municipal constitution real easy. I don't think it's as easy. I don't know about it's kind of hard to find the 1787 Constitution. So yes, maybe we will look at that, because I want to show you later on that there's no 14th Amendment citizen. There's no mention of a national debt. And we are sovereign because of that. Besides being the Indians and besides the free person foreigners, we were sovereign. They turned that around on us, y'all, when they doctored it up and added those unconstitutionally added amendments, the Reconstruction amendments, where they have us thinking that we had slavery when it was not slavery. It was American Indians, children working on the farms. Okay, so now we're going off on a tangent. The ancestors, like, we don't recall asking you to do that right just now. You just thanked us and then you took us exit stage left. So let's go back a little bit, because I really this video is everything, y'all. Everything. Let's go. We gotta hear it again. Yeah, I'm taking y'all back. I'm sorry. We're going back because I don't even know if you can hear this. So that's why it may be important for me to replay it so we can get, But let's go back. We got to hear what this brother just called out the whole damn world. He called the whole world Moors, y'all. But you see, that's what it takes to come up against the American Indian. Y'all better stand strong as American Indians. Don't let nobody tell you a damn Moor, make you a foreigner, make you part of their construct. You don't need it. It's a sea jurisdiction that they're in, because they went international. They thought, let's go international, then come for these niggas, and they're going to be cornered. But you knew you had to do that to even fathom coming up against the American Indian, trying to make our America your World Trade Center. Them buildings was taken down for a reason, I think. We ain't going to go there, but I think it was ritualistic, because it was the first sign that no, America does not, it's not, this is our homeland. It's not no World Trade Center. If we didn't make it that, who made it that? The same Negroes we listening about right now. Let's go. We're gonna go back. Sorry, y'all. We got to get this work. Okay, no, I meant to go further than that. No, sorry. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm sorry. Fair use.
Very diverse and adaptive people. You stop at new things, the
stop at nothing.
The Mongols bear many names and the title, and can be easily misunderstood or misplaced due to the fact that some people only associate the Mongols with China. Now, the Mongols were Moors from northwest Africa, were the Tatars of Tartary,
Mhm.
or Tartaria,
Hit me again.
barbarians of Barbaros,
All righty now. The Berbers, the Tsars of Russia, Mongols of Mongolia, the Khans, the Sultans, the Dalai Lamas,
They were the Mansas.
the Mansas.
Mansa was a title. They were the five princes and princesses, the Turkish Jews, the Manchus of Manchuria, the Shin dynasty of China. They were the Mongols of India. They were the Shah.
Hit me, brother. Hit me with it. You better talk that.
They were the Kapoks and
Aha.
Aztecs,
Aha.
the Incas of Peru. They conquered Colombia, Mississippi, California, Canada, and other parts of the Americas. In this book, the historical research on the conquest of Peru, Mexico, Bogota, Natchez, and Talavito.
I'm just gonna stop. Sorry. I know I might be aggravating you all. I apologize. I will link the video so you can play without my big mouth. Peru, the conquest of Peru by the Mongols. Peru is where we have Jerusalem, okay? They were coming after what we knew of as our Holy Land before it was converted into Jerusalem, okay? I'm going to keep on saying it. So they're telling the world one story, but they keep coming back to America. You done conquered the world as these Moors, but you can't sit your fast ass down until you have America. Indeed, you went around to get back up, baby, because you knew that you couldn't win in America. You was not just fighting our indigenous, you were fighting your own ancestors. A lot of people, I know how people, you know, I don't consider them American once they have gone out and became every other culture. They had to go out and get like a backup, but also they had to make it look like it was these actual other races that were coming for us. But these other races were being backed by these damn Moors. Okay, so I just want to be sure that we know why they're coming for Peru. This is the earliest invasion, right? They created a people that don't look like us, and they, you know, they're invading Peru. So let's see what he has to say about that. Fair use, fair use. I'm gonna go a little bit back, and we see that the what is it, the Incas? So these are creations of the Moors, basically. They're infiltrated by the Moors. That's why you got that picture right there. Let's see if we could just go back a little bit.
Of the Aztecs, the Incas of Peru, Mexico, the
Okay.
Khans of Afghanistan, the Chagatai Khanate, the shogunates of Japan, the Mamelukes of Egypt and Syria. In Mexico, they were the Capocs.
Now, when he says Egypt and Syria, he's talking about the second Egypt that is near Syria in North Africa. He started out saying the Mongols were North Africans, Northwest Africans. This is what the brother said. Do we have to play it again? I won't do it again. But that's what he said. Okay, so let's go back because we want to be sure that when we see this, we might not want to claim this because it's infiltration. It's sending a people and then making a deal with them people, not the American Indians per se. You know, so let's see what he's saying again. I'm sorry.
They were the Mongols of India.
You know something? I want to put some closed captions on this. Let's for that reason we're going to start over. I'm sorry. I want you to be able to stop it and read it, okay? So forgive me. I know it's belaboring. We're going to get this work. I'm sorry, we're going to get this work. Well, this is some good work he put in. Fair use. We got to get the closed captions. You got to be able to freeze this and take screenshots, okay? Fair use.
To be educated TV will keep you informed. The Mongols conquered all of Asia, including Europe, Africa, and the Middle East. Yes, Europe and parts of what we know as Africa is actually Asia. It was divided into territories by the Mongol Empire and the previous powers. The Mongols were a very diverse and adaptive people and will stop at nothing to obtain absolute rule. The Mongols bear many names and titles and can be easily misunderstood or misplaced due to the fact that some people only associate the Mongols with China. Now, the Mongols were most from northwest Africa were the Tatars of Tartary or Tartaria, the barbarians of Barbary, the Berbers of Berbery, the Tsars of Russia, the Mongols of Mongolia. They were the Khans, the Sultan, the Dalai Lamas of Tibet. They were the Mansas, like Mansa Musa. Mansa was a title. They were the crown princes and princesses, the Turkish Jews, the Manchus of Manchuria, the Shin dynasty of China. They were the Mughals of India. They were the Shahs of Afghanistan, the Chagatai Khanate, the Shogunates of Japan, the Mamelukes of Egypt and Syria. In Mexico, they were the Capocs and Tupacs of the Aztecs, the Incas of Peru. They conquered Colombia, Mississippi, California, Canada, and other parts of the Americas. In this book, the historical research on the conquest of Peru, Mexico, Bogota, Natchez, and Talamico in the 13th century by the Mongols, accompanied with elephants. So the Mongols conquered Peru, Mexico, Bogota, which is Colombia, Natchez, which is today's Mississippi, and Talamico. I'm not sure where is Talamico, where it's located, but the Mongols also conquered California, Ohio, Canada, and other parts of the Americas. Before we get to the book, let's take a look at the Mongols' conquest and how they assumed some of their names and titles. But first, a portrait depicting the Great Khan, Temujin, also known as Genghis Khan, the ruler of the great Mongol Empire. As you can see, he is clearly black, a very fierce-looking man. The Mongol Empire had spread over Eurasia, including Eastern Europe, Anatolia, North China, Mongolia, Manchuria, Central Asia, Tibet, and Southwest Asia. There was no place left untouched by the Mongols. Just to give you an idea of how vast the Mongol Empire was, Eurasia consists of Central and Western Russia, Belarus, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, and the parts of the Caucasus, primarily in the northern and eastern hemisphere. It spans from the British Isles and the Iberian Peninsula in the west to the Japanese archipelago and the Russian Far East. So the British Isles is a part of Eurasia, and the British Isles consist of Northern Ireland, England and Wales, and Scotland. And the Iberian Peninsula consists of Spain and Portugal, France, Andorra, and Gibraltar, all ruled by Mongols. And the Southwest Asia consists of Armenia, Azerbaijan, Bahrain, Cyprus, Georgia, Iraq, Israel, Jordan, Kuwait, Lebanon, Oman, Palestine, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Syria, Turkey, United Arab Emirates, and Yemen. So what we know as the Middle East is originally Asia, Southwest Asia. The Mongols also ruled Iran, Northwest Africa, Vietnam, Taiwan, and other territories. The Mongols invaded and conquered Russia from 1237 to 1240, destroying many cities, wiping out thousands of people. It all started when Genghis Khan, the founder of the Mongol Empire, sent his son Jafti to conquer the lands of what is now known as Siberia, Central Russia, and Eastern Europe. Giant armies of Mongol warriors, an enormous number of over 100,000 men, advanced and easily defeated the weak and ill-numbered forces of the Russian princes. The Mongols, led by Batu Khan, invaded Russia. They took, ravaged, and burned Ryazan, Kolomna, Moscow, Vladimir, Tver, all the major Russian cities. The Mongols also conquered the lands and cities of the south. Kiev, Chernigov, and others were burnt to the ground. The northeastern lands, most notably Tver, Moscow, Vladimir, and Suzdan, became the main cities after the invasion. In this portrait, we have a Mongol Russian guard. Take note of his headgear, which are still worn by Russian soldiers today. Nicholas the Tsar of Russia was the last of the Mongol-ruled empire in Russia, when Nicholas and his family, including children, the famous Anastasia and her siblings, were all brutally killed. Enyas Yaroslav II of Vladimir was poisoned by Guyuk, Khan's wife, at the age of 67. Enyas Mikhail of Chernigov was executed in the capital of the Golden Horde for refusing to worship Mongol idols. Enyas Mikhail of Tver had his heart ripped out in the same capital. The Russian population was forced to pay substantial tributes, and Russian princes were only allowed to rule their duchies by the permission of the Khan of the Golden Horde, which was known as Tartar, Mongol, Igor, or the Yoke.
I want to stop for a minute. Khan. When we use that word, Khan, Amaru Khan, this is what we're tying ourselves to. This is why I now, with the help of Horace Butler, it's Tameri. If we're going to go ancient with America, it's going to be Tameri. It's not going to be Lemuria. It's not going to be Atlantis. We want a real life legacy. We don't want fantasy. We don't want something that is underwater as our legacy, because what the Moors will interpret that to mean that you're a sea people. And so it's so fitting that you be in our sea jurisdiction, which is a commerce, a place of commerce. What is commerce? Commerce does not have constitution. Commerce doesn't have a Bill of Rights. Commerce doesn't have a Declaration of Independence. That is why so many Americans are wondering, why does it seem the government works against us? Because they are. Okay, I'll give you some what do you call it? Arnold Schwarzenegger. Because they are. You're in a C jurisdiction, Americans, okay? Let's just be, that's why it seems like you have none of the rights that you declared you had. Free speech, where did that go? Where did that go during Rona? It went out the window, right? But you see, the government can impose itself when it has jurisdiction to do so. How did it get jurisdiction? Well, when they created us, recreated us as United States citizens, and all that paperwork that we, running to, get documentation. All it does, it ties us to them, unless it's a declaration. Now, some people are saying, well, you don't do no paperwork. A declaration is not paperwork. A declaration is uniquely your word. It's a man or woman speaking. It's the, so a declaration is not considered paperwork when you submit, a declaration, So, I know I'm going off a tangent a little bit. That I just want to remind our Indians, we don't need permission anymore. We don't want to free ourselves as Indians only to give them a dominion over us again by saying, we need your to run our corporation or whatever. No. We got to figure out what a real government looks like when it's not a corporation. And that's the kind of government we're going to construct. It's going to be one that is not a corporation. I think we've forgotten what a real government looks like when it's for the people, by the people. It means that we hold these meetings. It's not Congress doing it for us. That sort of thing. Assemblies. Where we work out the government that we want, that is separate and distinct from a corporation. Now, I'm not going to go off on that tangent right now, but that's the general idea. So, yeah, so we don't want to go with Khan. Don't get impressed when I'm American. No. That's the Moorish term, the Khan, from their empire, okay? Their little empire term, okay? So no, I'm telling you all, Tarmarian is the only real life word you're going to find for, now they did erase it, but we do have some proof that it was erased, that there was a map where Tarmari was the map, but then it was changed to America. And now everybody wants to say that means American, as in Khan. No, it doesn't. It's just a version of Tarmari. Tarmari. And why Tarmari? Tarmari is the land, the civilization that kicked the Moorish element out of the Americas. That's why Tarmari. That's why they changed. That's why they don't like that word. We can't go with the words that they like Amaru Khan, Amaru. We broke down Amaru, right? He's too young of a deity for America to be named after him, okay? He does not go back to 3400 BC when we were Tarmari. There was no Amaru. And we would not have named ourselves after a dragon, okay? Here's the thing we got to understand with using animal iconography. Tarmarians didn't use a full animal. They might have, you always saw the deities with a human copper-colored body and they had the head of an animal. What was that representing? They were trying to show you that that person, that deity, that ancestor had, for instance, I said this before, the keen sight of a falcon. That's why they gave him that head. It wasn't worshiping animals. The body was your ancestor. That was the copper color. So what am I saying? I'm saying that we would not have connected to a full dragon of something that is a fully like an animal. That wouldn't really have been considered an ancestor, because we are human beings, right? Well, some people say that's not the word for us either. Okay, we're men and women, okay? We have a certain type of body, right? So you want your deities to, because they're your ancestors, they have to look like you. That's the best way I know how to say it. So you don't have a whole dragon with wings. First of all, that's a mythical being, right? And I think I said it in my last video. I hope I did. If you're going to represent an animal, it has to be an animal from the real world. You see how you get a priesthood or a Moorish priesthood giving you a deity that has no connection to you as a human being. In fact, the deity is considered the enemy of the sun. Apep was the only ancient dragon that we know of, if we go with real life and real history. I'm saying Tameri is a real documented history, not unlike Lemuria, Mu, or Atlantis. What is the oldest? That's going to be Tameri. It's not even going to be Maya, y'all. That is why, I don't know how to, I really don't know how to stress it. You got to go with the oldest to be first place, to be first born, to have that birthright. Maya is not the oldest. That's why I have a problem with Maya. Now they're giving it a 7000 BCE date, but that is, what is that? I love the term this woman coined in her article that we read, that we looked at, the Creation Journal article that said dubious pre-literate dating, so you're gonna throw out like a 300,000 BC time frame, but you have no writing to back that. All you have, or you're gonna claim to have, is pottery. Everybody was making pottery. Mind you, they didn't have a fucking house to live in, but they was making pottery. What was they, what wearing the shit on their head to protect them from the freaking elements? All this freaking pottery. I think pottery is the weakest archaeological evidence that you'll find, next to little tablets sprinkled out somewhere in Samaria. That, how do we know that it wasn't put there? Now a temple is something different. It's more substantial because it's built. It's on that ground. It's on that land. Little tablets that you found with quote unquote cuneiform, that's gonna prove something? No, it's not. Well, it'll prove that somebody sprinkled that shit there and somebody found it. That's really all it proves. That don't mean that nobody was there. I'm just gonna be real with it like that. I'm sorry. Okay. So I'm just trying to say, for us as American Indians, the Maya is the oldest Indian I believe you're going to find. And so if they're not looking, put it this way, if they're questionable in any way as to who they were, they're not good enough. We want to go. I do advocate. I'm gonna, I hate to be annoying, but, and that's why I do advocate. I see Tameri as our oldest real ancient culture in the Americas, older than the Maya, the Inca, definitely the Aztecs. So that is why you know, um, uh, I don't know. I mean, we can try to go with what they're uncovering in North America, but I don't know that anything has been, I'm not sure that anything has been found that is older than like a civilization that's older than 3400 BC, where Peru is housing that. In what they're calling Machu Picchu, that was Jerusalem. Okay. Okay, so yeah, just to say we don't want to go with the con. All those terms that that brother mentioned in the first part of this video, you have, that was all Moorish, right? That's why they think they're so great. They think they're so smart. They think that all they got to do, you know, and which is, this is how they live. They start something and then they consider that it's theirs. So once we take on the wording of something they created, we're now, they consider us now basically their property. They would stop at nothing for absolute power, is what the brother said. I was gonna say something about, I'm really wondering about, you know, I see a little bit of a conflict with, say, Arabs, but because the breakdown that somebody like a Farrakhan gives is that first they were Arabs before they were, I think I know what the solution, what the fix for that is. An Arab could be a Mongol as well, because that area was known as Asia, right? So that kind of solves the Arab thing. Maybe the Arab were a people, they were a versatile people. They could be called Arab, they can be called Mongols, because as the brother said in this video, all that whole area was Asia. And so this is also why we don't want to call ourselves Asiatic black men, okay? Because it's basically a nod to what we know of as Asia, where that's the hot seat, the hotbed of Moorish dealings. We don't want to be Asiatic, okay? Because it is something that the Moors created. This is, I believe this brother in this video pretty much explained that to us. He said that whole area was what, Southeast Asia or South, what was it, Southwest Asia, whatever. That was all Asia. And you know, actually, to be honest with you, that's what those people call themselves, Asian. The Pakistan and all of them that look Arab, they're Asian. So that solves the Arab issue. The Arabs are Asian. The ones that dark skin and but straight hair. That's the first Asians. And then they started looking like the you know, the more Oriental look, you know, is what the conclusion I come from what this brother's telling me. So let's continue. Let me go back a little bit because I know I talk so much that, you know. So let's go back.
Yeah, and their siblings were all brutally killed. Kenya's Yaroslav II of Vladimir was poisoned by Guyuk, Khan's wife, at the age of 67. Kenya's Mikhail of Chernigov was executed in the capital of the Mongolian Horde for refusing to worship Mongol idol. Kenya's Mikhail of Tver had his heart ripped out in the same capital. The Russian population was forced to pay substantial tributes, and Russian citizens were only allowed to leave their region by the permission of the Khan of the Golden Horde, which was known as Tartar, Mongol, Eagle, or the Yoke. In this portrait, we have the depiction of Kenya's Mikhail of Chernigov, a Russian prince. He was passed between fires in accordance with Turco-Mongol tradition. Batu Khan had him stabbed to death for his refusal to do obeisance to Khan's shrine. Note that Genghis Khan is depicted as a black man. painting done by Russian painter Smyrna. In 1231, the Mongols began their invasion of Korea. During several major campaigns and 39 years of trouble, exhausted after decades of fighting, Korea sent its crown prince to the Daegu to swear allegiance to the Uin dynasty. Kublai Khan accepted and married one of his daughters to the Korean crown prince. And for the following years, Korea existed under the overlordship of the Mongol Uin dynasty in China. The two nations became intertwined as all subsequent Korean kings married Mongol princesses, and the last empress of the Uin dynasty was a Korean woman. Here we have the portrait of Kublai Khan, grandson of Genghis Khan. Kublai Khan conquered China in 1279 to 1368. Khan was the first non-Chinese king over the entire country, and then established the Uin dynasty. Uin China was considered the most important part of the Mongol Empire, which stretched from the Caspian Sea to the Korean Peninsula. Kublai Khan created the new capital city of Xanadu or Shandong in the inner Mongolia. The main center of the Mongol Empire was later moved to the Daegu, present-day Beijing. The Mongols conquered Tibet from 1244 to 1354, and all subsequent Dalai Lamas were Mongols of the Uin dynasty. The Mongols became Sakya Lama, who was the de jure head of Tibet and the spiritual leader.
Now, I just want to stop a minute because we want to roll back a little bit and remember, who did he call the Mongols? The Mongols were what? Northwest African Moors. As I'm listening to this, it's looking to me that they may have been a little more brutal, which was what the Moors needed. You know what I'm saying? Like, I saw the movie where they depicted the Tsar of Russia, I think is Nicholas, I think it was, and his family being murdered. And when I watched this video that we're watching, I remember, wow, wow. I saw that movie, and it was, the movie is from the perspective of the Nicholas's family. So you had, you had sympathy for them. They were taken over, what this brother said, by the Mongols. They didn't depict that in the movie. Everybody was white in the movie. But you got the film was, I think it's called Nicholas. I think that's what I gotta look it up, but I always say I'm gonna link things, but if I remember. But it was a moving movie. But I'm just saying, this is real life. This they had this man that he didn't know what was gonna happen. They kept moving him and his family. First, they were protected, but they were outside of Russia somewhere, in a very deserted place. They were being shifted and moved around. And finally, whoever took over, which was the Mongols, according to this guy, they had them thinking they were going to ship them back to where they came from, put them in a room. The man was there with he had like 9 children, mostly girls, and a little sickly boy who had, I believe he had was that thing where you bleed and you hemophiliac. And so all through the movie, they're trying to care for their hemophiliac son, and the wife is consulting all kinds of soothsayers because she's trying to protect her little son, future king or czar or whatever. And so she finally meets what's the guy's name, Rasputin or something like that. And I forgot the guy's name, but he's a kind of a crazy kind of soothsayer kind of guy, and she helped the wife of the czar with this son he would bleed. You have to be very careful because he would bleed internally if he wasn't careful, you know. So so all through the movie they're trying to, you know, care for the son while they're on the run. And at the end, you think they're coming to be rescued or something. His family's sitting there waiting for them to be taken where they're going to be taken to. The same people that took them there walk in with, open the door. The family's sitting there, you know, they don't know what's about to happen. They all lined up. Guy pulls out a gun. There's like a group of guys and shoots the whole family. So this is what he's talking about in this video, and I was like, "Oh shit!" I mean, I knew it was real because it was, you know, the name of the film, but it's interesting to hear you know, what brother said. So okay, so yeah, I just want to say, you know, I want to remind us as he's talking, we're in our heads, we're thinking of Asians, right? But he told us who they were. They were West African Moors. That's what the brother said. And that is what is the damn truth. Okay, let's go back a little since I was running my mouth.
Dalai Lama were Mongols of the Wu dynasty. The Mongols became Sakya Lama, who was the de jure head of Tibet and the spiritual leader. In this portrait, you have Thupten Gyatso, the 13th Dalai Lama of Tibet, who was Mongol bred and is clearly Negroid. And in the next portrait, we have Mongol soldiers of the Tibetan army, who are also Negroid. The Mongol invasion of Poland was from 1240 to 1241, culminated in the Battle of Legnica, where the Mongols defeated an alliance which included forces from fragment Poland and their allies, led by Henry II, who was Duke of Silesia at the time. In this portrait, we have a pilot from the Polish army during World War I, which was from 1914 to 1918, where we saw the last of the Mongol Tsar-ruled empire. So all the territories and empires of the Mongols were lost during World War I and II, and were taken by the new superpower from the seat of Britain, who immediately put their new world order in place to safeguard their world dominance.
And let's just be clear. We caught this one, huh? We caught this commercial. No. We know what Britain started out as, right? We know that those were not originally Caucasian people, right? So it's just another faction of who? The Moors. They are like the hand under the white glove, shall we say. So when he says Britain becomes the new thing, let's not get it twisted. King James is a whole black man. Okay? Them's his descendants. That's in there now. Still doing what the Moors do. What is Britain's relationship with America? The real one. Are we being treated like sovereigns by the Crown Corporation? Who founded the Crown Corporation? Forget about who owns it now. Who founded it? That's the principle. They don't give up power. Don't think that they sold that corporation like that. No. They're the principle. So that's who is now the current arm of the Moors, as they want us to still think that they are just nowhere, disappeared. Negroes don't disappear, y'all. We don't disappear, especially when we're that thirsty for power. As the brother said in his video, stop at nothing. Why did they become so greedy? What I always say, that I hope that it'll make sense when I say it, as we get a picture of why are you so thirsty for power? Well, because they were what? Kicked out of America. So they said, if we can't have America the way we want it right now, what we're going to do is we're going to go dominate, create, then dominate every other nation on earth. And then we're going to come back to these MFers that kicked us out, and they're not even going to know that we came. They're not going to even know that we hijacked their quote unquote sovereign lands. We are going to punk these people more than any other nation on the face of the planet. It's like if we could put it on America's funniest videos, we would, because ain't nothing more funny what we about to do to these people, these American Indians. They ain't even gonna know it's us. And then we're gonna tell them that they are us. Meanwhile, we done reworked, remade, done over their whole entire country into a commerce. What the Moors love? Commerce. Because through commerce, they can dominate. What does commerce have to do with? Your money system, right? So if you have a money system created by some arm of the Moors, where you have to pay to use money supplied to you by your government, well, your government is a corporation, so they ain't going to let you use that money for free. That's how your national debt is going to go skyrocketing, and you're going to owe whoever made that money that you're using, right? Whoever issued that money that said, every time you use $1, you owe us 2 or 3 or whatever we make the rate for that when we feel we need to, leave your asses struggling. So yeah, we got a money system that we have to pay to use, y'all. If that's not a recipe for eternal slavery, I don't know what is. That's why we don't want none of what they have for us. It's always going to be something that puts us in debt. Oh my gosh, that commercial is on with the Shriners, the Love Shriners. Have you guys seen this commercial with the Moors and the teddy bear? They build a snowman and put a freaking fez on the fucking snowman. Pardon my French. It's like, oh God, I can't. And if you donate, who knows where that money is going to? They're showing all these children. They love using children. And you'll get this wonderful, this adorable blanket with a fucking Morris teddy bear on it, wearing a fucking high hat fez, a high top fez, or whatever. That one tall damn fez. But I was done when I saw the snowman wearing a fucking. I was no more good after that. Little girl got some kind of disability, but she know how to build a Morris fucking snowman. I can't with these freaking Moors, man. I can't. Oh boy. But again, we all I'm saying is we can't miss this opportunity to break out of their construct, y'all. If they constructed the corporation that makes corporations, we have to. That means that they have a jurisdiction over the corporation. That's what I'm saying. So we got to go back to good old-fashioned trade. The word commerce it's a like a what do you say? It's a sea jurisdiction term, you know, whereas trade is I would say that's more the land based kind of thing term for it. So you know they create words and then you're boom, you're in their jurisdiction. So what we got to do, as what we're very good at doing anyway, is create new words, you know, for that we one of the first things that I think that indigenous might want to consider is creating a new language in terms of we're going to take the words that we're so used to using, but we're going to make a word for it that we created. That's what's going to give us the dominion over whatever it is. So we got to, whatever word that is being put on us, no matter what it is, forget even the colored and the black. What about what is the motor vehicle? We don't want to use a term like that, right? Because it's calling in a jurisdiction that we don't want, a commerce only. Commerce has nothing to do with constitutional rights. Commerce has to do with contracts made, contracting yourself out of your sovereignty, contracting ourselves into a commercial world of where contracts are the highest law. You know, we want a world where the Constitution is the highest. So what does that really mean? Basically, it means that corporations are acting pretty much outside of the Constitution because they're going by contracts, and they can make you contract into anything. That's stepping outside of your Constitution, right? Because if your contract is saying something like I'm not allowed to speak, then I'm waiving my constitutional rights. We have to make sure that any kind of, we might even have to name it something else. Corporation, I think we got to do away with that word. I'm serious. It doesn't even sound right. It's allegedly they're saying that businesses can't work with human beings, but why? In other words, you can't interface with a corporate entity unless you're a fictitious entity yourself. So maybe we need to redefine what these entities, maybe you don't need a dead entity. Why can't it be more of a living entity where we don't have these mega corporations, you know, but you're dealing with more like proprietor, what do you call it? Self-proprietor. Maybe that's the kind of thing we need to be looking at, you know, because then it promotes responsibility. The corporation is trying to basically shook responsibility, you know, so the people that made the corporation don't really take the hit. The corporation does, you know, but they kind of don't, you know, whereas if it was you know, oh, that's I have to pause for a minute. I will be right back. I'm back. Pardon. So we were in the middle of a video and I started preaching. Sorry, I had a phone call. Basically, you know, the idea is when we are free sovereigns, that means we call our own shots and we don't need any permission. You know, even if we were just an unincorporated group, you know, we don't have to have, you know, them like audits and all of this. This is just their world, and once we let them in, you know, they dominate. That's they stop at nothing for absolute power, even if it looks like They're giving us power. They're calling our shots. I don't know if I don't know how we can grasp that, you know. I just it's just something that I ponder it a lot and try to figure out, you know, how they come at us and the different, you know, we look at the civilized tribes and we don't want that, right? We don't want to be like a civilized tribe, basically. So, you know, I just think about what is the most sovereign way we could be. The thing is, they would have to, I think we would have to I mean, we would have the authority to do so. Uh, but I feel like the corporation, they stifle our ability to to do commerce or trade, you know, by sticking their nose in it. And once they're in it, I don't know if they know how to be in it without trying to hinder it. You know, whether what is it, tax that they're gonna put on something, you know. I feel like again, indigenous are not taxed. So we don't want to put ourselves in a situation where we are being taxed, you know. Um, it's just a journey that, you know, the way opens as you know, think about it, you know. So let's get back to the video. It's a very good video. We'll go back a little bit because I kind of forgot where we were. Fair use, fair use. Oh, we got to put the sound back on. Fair use.
In this portrait, we have a pilot from the Polish army during World War One, which was from 1914 to 1918, where we saw the last of the Mongol Tsar ruled empire. So all the territories and empires of the Mongols were lost during World War One and Two, and were taken by the new superpower from the seat of Britain, who immediately put their new world order in place to safeguard their world dominance. So that was the reason for the world wars. The Mongols ruled the world, and Britain and their newly formed League of Nations and the conquered territories who became their allies took and ravaged all Mongol empires. So far, we see that the Mongols ruled most of Asia, which includes Europe and Africa. The Great Khan appointed rulers for his territories under various names and titles, so Tartaria on a whole can be misunderstood easily. Now, the Mongol Empire or Tartaria existed up to the early 1900s, which have shown with Nicholas the Tsar that was brutally killed. Tupten Gyatso, the 13th Dalai Lama of Tibet, that was exiled in India for some years before returning to Tibet and gaining independence from China, and was ruled by Britain in the early 1900s. Do you see the pattern? Now, let's take a look at the Mongols' conquest of the Americas, which is not taught in any institution.
Here we go.
It's kind of funny to me how people go about things sometimes. There's a part of history that says a man from Africa named Abu Bakr set sail with over 2,000 ships. Now we can argue all day if his real name was Mansa Abu Bakr or not. The fact is there was a voyage of over 2,000 ships, which no other empire did to that magnitude. But what's funny is how 2,000 ships disappeared at sea during a storm, and some say it never happened. Let me start by saying Mansa is a title of the Mali Empire, and they were a faction of Tartaria. They did set sail with a couple thousand vessels, accompanied with slaves of every nation, an enormous amount of elephants and the riches of valuables, and landed on the shores of California and Peru. In this book, the historical researchers on the conquest of Peru, Mexico, Bogota, Natchez, and Talameco in the 13th century by the Mongols,
13th century. Okay, so maybe we were right the first time, because that is where we found them appearing. But we determined, from what we were reading, that was way too late in our history for them to have really founded America, which has a history, according to Horace Butler, and I believe him, that goes back to 3400 BC. I ask any indigenous who might be listening, do we have a problem dating back to 3400 BC if those people were known as Tamarians? I just a question I want us to ponder, because that is the only place you're going to get that history. You can't go with the Mayas because they're not as old. They wouldn't be considered the true first people of the land, now would they? Not if we're not ignoring the ones that came before them. So I guess the big challenge to what I would like to think that my videos hopefully offered indigenous who are, from what I saw, grabbing in the dark for where did we start? What was it? I've heard some of our people talk about outer space. Of course, we know about our people that are talking about Atlantis. So my question is, you'd rather go with fantasy island stuff than, because the most ancient one was Tamari, that's not good enough for us? That, I guess that's my question, just in general, because I'm going to take it if it's mine. That's how I feel. Now I guess somebody might say, well, would you take it if it was Moorish? If I felt that it was truly who we were, yes, I would. But I don't, because I know that they were expelled from America. So I know that once that happened, that was a banishing. That was a banishing. When you're expelled from a country, you're not to come back, is the general idea. So once they're expelled, that's what's a good example of that? I wish I could. Oh boy. I I can't even think of it, because it's one of those things that happen in history, but I don't think we pay it any mind when someone is in exile, or not. Well, it's not even exile. Well, it might be a form of but you're not to come back. It's like a punishment of sorts, an expelling, So yeah, I wouldn't want to be a Moor, because that means I was denied the birthright of America. I'm no longer seen. The ancestors, what they had willed was for that no Moors be allowed to the Americas. Why? Because they were severely breaking away from tradition. We're talking about people that could not honor their ancestors because their temples were being shut down by Akhenaten. This is the same thing that the first European Ptolemies, or otherwise known as pharaohs, that's what they did. So it started with Akhenaten, though. He was the first one. And I believe it became a tactic that those who looked to take down Tamari would do. They would shut down your temple and say, no, you got to stop. It's like going to church on a Sunday, right? And I hate to use Christians as an example, because I'm not a Christian. Going to a church on Sunday one day and sitting in there, kneeling down to your Jesus, right? Coming next Sunday and now here's how it started. I believe one of the ways it was done. Say now it's not shut down yet, but you walk in there and next to Jesus is a big Buddha. And so now your Jesus icon has maybe put on a made smaller. Before it was the biggest thing in the church. Now you walk in and you see a little Jesus on the side and a big Buddha in the middle. And can you imagine how offensive that is to someone who all they knew for generations, for their parents, grandparents? Can you imagine what that would feel like if your basically your leaders, your government did this? It's like, okay. And then you realize that the deity has a name, and they saying somehow they're inserting him between you and your Jesus. That's what happened. The when they introduced Serapis, which was the first version of Jesus, that's how he was introduced. You would go in to say honor Aset or Heru or Ra or Tahuti. And there was this Caucasian deity, Caucasian looking deity that the priesthood created for their daddy baby Caucasian. But the thing is, they were doing away with ours. That's how you know that they meant us no good. I say it and I'll always say it. I don't understand why, because it couldn't be that there were more than, they were making it monotheistic. So you couldn't have like your deities and Jesus. So that was the crime. That is why became the Moors, that element. They were expelled. This is what they were doing. Then it got to where they just shut your temples down, and you only had, in the example I used just now, a Buddha. And so you're totally disconnected. How do you do that to a people? They have ancestral connection to their deities, and one day they come in and that deity is no longer available. So that is a cause to expel a priesthood, as well as any dynasty that the priesthood was overseeing or backing or whatever. As we know, Akhenaten was backed by the Amun priesthood, but they try to say he was against them. But to me, when you really break it down, they were working together. They both wanted domination with one deity. The Amun-Ra priesthood, they wanted to be the only priesthood, and Akhenaten wanted monotheism. That, like I said in one of my videos, that's a match made in heaven when you're trying to get rid of all the other copper-colored deities, and then introduce a Caucasian one. That's how fierce what did the brother say in this video? Stop at nothing for absolute domination. You can't dominate with a multitude of deities. You can't do it. But you can dominate with one, because then you're creating a controlled situation. And we can't leave out the fact that you're disconnected from your ancestors. So you have no backing from them. You don't have a spiritual backing once you discard your ancestors. That's why the question I ask is, if indigenous found out that our oldest culture was Tarmarian, do we not own it because it was Tarmarian? Do we say, the Maya and the Inca were, now, mind you, these are being said to be older than even the Iroquois and Algonquin, as far as we know, right? So again, they're not old enough, though, So when we look at these old histories of the 1400s, the 1300s, the 1200s, we're looking at Maya, not Algonquin. or Iroquois, right? So we're being traced back to the Maya. If you really want to break down, if we want to say that we're the first Americans, which we are, but again, if the Maya were not the first people, then don't we have to go further back? And don't worry, the Moors don't want to touch Tamari. They don't want to have anything to do with Tamari. That's how we know claiming our Tamarian history is not claiming a Moorish history. The Moors, I don't know if people realize that's why the Moors created the monotheistic religion. They are totally against Tamari's deity system. So that is not Moorish. I think maybe people think that Tamari means when you had a pharaoh that he was a Moor. No, he wasn't. Because he did not believe in Allah or any of the monotheistic deities like Jesus. So what my studies have shown me is that Tamari is a neutral entity in all of this. In fact, Tamari is the thing that is being hidden from us. The Moors are pushing Islam, though they will swear that they're not. We know that the Hebrew Israelites, what they're pushing. We know what Christians are pushing. That has nothing to do with Tamari. That's why this is why my money is that Tamari is what we can take as a literal, a real life history. Again, we can't go with Atlantis because it's underwater. We can't go with Mu. We can't go with Lemuria. We don't have real proof of what those people look like. You know, it's going into that area where it's just, they're going to start saying they're from outer space and all of that. You know, we need a real life history. And I'm telling you all, Tamari is the oldest. We have to own the real life, you know, the real life in order to get out of the world of fiction. The corporate world can create corporate fictions. And then once they do that, say they create Atlantis. Well, now it's a total fiction thing. It doesn't have enough archaeology. I can never say that word right. Archaeology evidence to make it relative in the world as we know it. Okay, the real world. Okay, Maya again is. It's okay. I think Maya is actually okay. I just think it's not old enough. So yes, you can claim Maya, but you got to go further back. If there's one older, you got to claim that too. But I you know, that's just me. I don't. I guess, you know, what do I know, right? I'm just going with what common sense dictates to me. I feel like in order to put ourselves on the map, we have to latch to something that everyone knows about Tamari, right? They just don't know where it was, right? That's the biggest problem. They think it was in Africa first. It wasn't, right? So in other words, no one can deny us. Now you go with Atlantis, we can be denied Atlantis. They're gonna say, what? It was the what is that race that they claim of blonde? What do they call them again? They're like a race of blonde people or something like that. I think that's what you get with Atlantis, like that kind of thing, you know, like they're just all these different people. So then and you're going into too much diversity that the Moors create the diversity, but then they want to dominate with one narrative. So that causes problems. It's like a conflict, you know. So where we have Tamarian deities in all their copper-colored glory, showing us who they were. Again, the Maya had copper color too, but they're just not old enough. Now you can say they 7,000 BC again, dubious dating, because there's no writing before 3100 BC, right? That is where writing really began. If I'm just gonna go with what I know, what you know, I really don't buy anything coming out of Samaria. So that includes the fact that they started writing. I don't know what that chicken scratch is, but they want to say it's writing. And a corporation, a corporate entity, they can make anything as if it were. You know, they can take a fictional thing and they'll make it as if it were real. So that is what they do. They'll grab some chicken scratch and say that was one, and only one man translated that Sitchin, right? That got, you know, that has secret society written all over it. One man that is translating cuneiform, and he's telling only one man, right? And everybody's going what he said. Okay. So anyway, that's why I want to say, I just want to say, we're looking at Peru and Mexico and all of that. This is the time again of the Mongols coming in. So I guess his video is kind of backing what I say. He's just making it clear that every other nation on earth was started by the Moors. Okay, let's just cut to the chase. Don't be afraid to speak the truth as a man. Just spit it out, and we're going to keep that. We're going to take that. Okay, we're not going to spit that out. Okay, so let's continue this video. Okay, so I see that this is a long video. If I don't get to everything that I said I would, like, you know, the consultation and all of that, and you know, we did talk about the Maya, which we didn't. You know, in my last video, one of the last videos, I was supposed to get back on the Maya, and I still have to do that if I don't do that now. But I just thought this was another thing that kind of explained the rest of the world and who is behind the rest of the world, literally. You know, yes, it's a great thing, right? But it's not in our favor. It was never in our favor. Again, why do we know that these black men going and starting all of this was never in our favor? It's because the narrative is that America is a new world, right? So what did the Moors do? What did all these Moors and all these other countries do? They told the rest of the world that Africa was first. Because that's where they were expelled to. I don't know how I can make it any more logical, you know? So that meant that these Moors denied our existence to the world that they created. So they had the world thinking that we're heathen. And that's what Columbus thought, right? So that is what the Moors did to American Indians. That is why we don't want to identify as a Moor. It is an offense and an affront to our ancestors. Why? Because our ancestors were denied existence in the world of the Moors. That was all self-serving, but we were not part of that self that the Moor had created. The Khans, the Tsars, the Shahs, the Dalai Lamas, he said it all. We know, we didn't have to say Spain because we know about Spain, right? But with Spain, that's just the whole entire world. This is what the Moors want. They need to dominate the world. They're not playing. World domination is not a joke to them. But it is the death of the American Indian. Again, in the Moorish world, we are the new people on the block. We're the last to be civilized, according to the Moors. Because we kicked that ass out. That was payback. You kicked me out, I erase you from history. The history that I'm going to create. This is why we don't want to be Moors. This is why we don't want to be no Amaru, None of that. No, I'm a Rukan. No, 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 no. This is their world, and we were not included. And if being included means giving these motherfuckers domination, I say hell to the nah, 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 nah. Okay, that's what I say. Okay, so I'm going to rewind a little bit because I'm running my mouth.
And landed on the shores of California and Peru. In this book, the historical researches on the conquest of Peru, Mexico, Bogota, Natchez, and Palamaco in the 13th century by the Mongols.
13th century.
Elephant and the local agreement of history and tradition with the remains of elephants and mastodontes found in the New World. Now, some of the contents.
The New World. What? The what? The Moors knew that this was not the New World. But to justify taking us over, they had to convince the world that we are them heathens, them people that the land that time forgot, shall we say. And let's take a, I have to pause for a minute. I'm sorry, I'll be back. I am back. That was a long break that thankfully you didn't have to go through. And so let's go back to sharing the screen. Let's see. Sorry, that was a long break. I had a family member on the phone and I hadn't talked to in a while. And so I'm going to try to recap, go back a little bit on this video because I don't remember where I left off, and I apologize. I needed to take the call. I won't even say how long it was, but it was a long one. Okay, so let's start here. Okay, and thank you for listening. Fair use. Thank you so much for joining me on this video. I do apologize. I needed to speak to my family member, and so I don't know where I left off. So that's why I'm rewinding. Although I was probably pontificating. So, okay, let's start with valuables and landed on the shores of California. So these are what we're doing is we're coming to terms with the fact that the Mongols might not have looked Chinese, you know. But what I found interesting is when I first saw this video, I thought what I heard him saying was that they were here before the 1300s. But now I'm realizing with all the information he's given us, he still hasn't placed them in America until like we did in the 1200s or the 13th century, right? So this more or less is just showing us where the Moors went. Excuse me. This showing us that the Moors really they got to take over the world. Every place except really America. The reason why they didn't do that, because we kicked them out. You got to ask yourself why didn't they come for America that like they went all around the world? Because we knew who they were. We got to use some, got to be willing to go there. I don't know if people really take this information very seriously. But it explains a lot, It really does explain a lot. Like, why weren't we one of the Moors' conquest, really? Well, because we knew who they were. We would have recognized them immediately because we kicked them out. They were expelled. So they go around and now they are hiding behind these other races that they fostered. And if anything, they're sending them, I think, because well, we do have the Abu Bakari, that's when this got interesting, because I realized I was incorrect, because I don't know why I got the impression when I first watched this video that he was putting them in America before the 13th century. But now I realize
I don't think he is. He did mention California, right? But let's see. Let's try to hear. Maybe go back a little bit further because he's talking about those ships right about here. Okay, so let's go back to. Okay, let's go right there. Okay. How do I? Oh, okay. Here we go.
At the moment
Fair use.
Conquest of the Americas, which is not taught in any institution. It's kind of funny to me how people think or go about things sometimes. There's a part of history that says a man from Africa named Abu Bakr set sail with over 2,000 ships. Now we can argue all day if his real name was Mansa Abu Bakr or not. The fact is there was a voyage of over 2,000 ships, which no other empire did to that magnitude. But what's funny is how 2,000 ships disappeared at sea during a storm.
I just want to stop for a minute. No other culture did it to that magnitude. The Moors knew that they had a fight on their hands. Would you say? They look at how many ships they're sending to our shores. Do they not know who we are? You coming prepared, baby. With all them ships, what did you think we're gonna be too much for you? You coming with 2,000 ships. In the beginning of this video, he said the Mongols would stop at nothing for complete control. Look at all these ships they're sending. In one of my videos, I said, can you imagine what that fleet looked like? That's a lot of ships on the ocean at one time. 2,000. Someone say 200. You don't know all that. The number's getting crazy. 2,500. But it was a significant amount, right? Look how they have to come to us, right? It sounded like they knew what we were working with. Sounded like they were trying to overpower. Why would you need that many ships to come to America? I'm sensing conquest. I'm thinking that's what this is about. It's like relocating on a massive scale, but when you're relocating like that, there must it sounded to me like that's we coming to dominate y'all. That's what we coming to do. You're gonna wake up one morning, see over 2,000. Can you imagine standing on the coast looking over the Atlantic here in New York or somewhere? And you look out and suddenly the horizon is literally lined with 2,000. Look at those masts of those ships. Can you imagine seeing that coming at you? What are your thoughts? Oh my God, what's going on? Did we invite these people? They're coming to us. That's an act of war. Am I saying something wrong? Were they invited? So if you look on your shore and you see all of this as indigenous, what are we supposed to think? So yeah, they came packing, man. Why do you need 2,000 ships? That's like relocating a whole freaking nation. How many men are on these ships? Well, they try to say half of the ships was for supplies. I think that's what I read or heard or saw. Anyway, this is how they coming at us, y'all. They said this didn't happen before. Only in America do we need to be infiltrated with over what 2,000 ships. That don't sound like an act of war in some way, shape. Unannounced. They didn't have cell phones, right? But you come into my land like in that amount of how you going to come to my land like that? You know, that is like you're I can't even imagine the unloading of all of these people. We got, I guess we got to really think this out. Who told him that we wanted him to come like this? Now, you weren't bringing civilization again because we were already civilized. Let's not go there, okay? You ain't bringing crap to us. And we're not interested in your Islam. So why are you coming in this massive scale? This wasn't a good thing, y'all. It don't sound good. The way they'll tell it, like, you know, we just one day we came with 2,000 ships. That's all we did. No, that's an act of war. Okay. If you're not invited and you come in that many droves, this is an act of war. Is the way I see it. If I'm wrong, let me know. This looks like an act of war to me. So let's continue. Fair use, fair use. Thank you, fair use for educational, entertainment purposes. Mostly educational, I would like to think. I don't want to be like the DNA kits. Let's proceed.
And some say it never happened. Let me start by saying, Mansa is a title of the Mali Empire, and they were a faction of Tartaria. They did set sail with a couple thousand vessels, accompanied with slaves of every nation, an enormous amount of elephants, and the riches are valuable, and landed on the shores of California.
We're gonna pause again. Sorry. Slaves of every nation. So they're going around. Did I not say that they was making slaves of people? Do we remember that part? This is what the Moors were doing. He just said it. Slaves of every nation. And this is the group that want to, quote unquote, rule the world. They want a one world order. Bunch of black men running shit, but they are coming at you with the nobility, and you just what, bow down, bitches. They coming to make you slaves, y'all. Okay. So if you're coming with slaves already, we should kind of figure out what's going to happen when they reach shore. They already got slaves from everywhere they went, right? They knew stop. Okay. What you think gonna happen to you, or what they hoping to happen to you? Mind you, they're writing your history. Let's not kid ourselves on that. They don't just show up. They show up with a narrative, okay? And it's going to make them look good. Okay? And it's going to make you look bad. And you heathen are going to end up with some kind of scripture, but no land that you have any control over. Earlier today, a friend of mine sent me a video talking about dropping the bomb on Hiroshima. We learned that was a whole psyop. There was no nuclear waste. If there was, there would still not be people living in Hiroshima right now, or the area where this nuclear waste happened. It's a whole lie. It's just regular bombs, not nuclear bombs. So another way to take your land is to lie about it being nuked. We ain't gonna try. We ain't trying to nuke that land. We gonna use that land. We just got to get you off of it. We ain't gonna destroy it now. So I might try to link that if I remember. It was interesting. Just to show you the games. You know, right now we're being threatened with nuclear war, right? World War III. As the indigenous wake up, you know, there's all kinds of bells and whistles ringing, right? This is what we're dealing with, and we think that we can work with them. No, we got to not be under them. That's what we got to be. I'm starting to feel like we have to redesign business, because we don't want businesses that are dominated by entities that we know for a fact never had our best interest. Why should we believe they will have our best just because we incorporate? No, they just have dominion. That's what they have, really. So I think part of our mission as indigenous is to think about recreating how we do commerce. You know, gotta go to some good old-fashioned ways. If we hired a corporation to only do commerce, right, on the high seas, to protect us on the high seas or whatever, and they move to a position where they're deciding if we get abortions, and they're deciding if we have to take jabs, and they're deciding that we lose our job if we don't. They are way out of their sphere of authority. How can we trust such an entity unless we really lay the law down like we're supposed to as indigenous and even as free persons? But I really would like to, you know, speak to indigenous, because we're the first authority, you know, on the land, you know. So yeah, I just wanted to stop for a minute and point out the slaves from every nation. So you're going around and you're making slaves of people. You're dominating them with their own people, but they are slaves, like we have here in America. All those black faces in Congress that look like they work for us, but they don't. We vote for them, and what that vote does is take away our voice. That is a contract. It's a corporate contract. When we vote for them, that's a contract that says, I waive my rights. You do all the decision making. I leave that to you, Mayor Adams, or whatever. And then he decides something like, oh, all the schools are going to do vegan. And because I had a vegan diet, I feel like everybody should have. Do we take a vote on this, Mayor Adams? You know, but then again, I can't say. That's when we're in our proper persona, our proper status, that we get to call the shots like that. You know, that would be, you know, as state nationals, or even if Indians were in, you know, as you know. But the look is they come up with their own ideas. These are not things that they take a vote on. We signed that paper that they say we voted them in, but did we? You know, did we? And so when they decide that whatever papers were signed, it took away your right to have a say, and it gave all of that to Mayor Adams. That's how it works. It's not really we the people that are making these decisions anymore. We're subject to a debt now, you know. So the idea is we don't get a say. You know, I talked about looking at that first 1787 Constitution. So maybe I might still try to get to that if we get through this video. So fair use, we're going to proceed. Fair use. Thank you, Re-Educated TV again. Thank you. This is a jewel. But fair use, let's continue.
In this book, the historical research on the conquest of Peru, Mexico, Bogota, Natchez, and Talameco in the 13th century by the Mongol, accompanied with elephants and the local agreement of history and tradition with the remains of elephants and mastodontes found in the New World. Now, some of the contents include on quadrupeds supposed extinct, wild elephants in America, Mongols with elephants landing.
Oh, we got a commercial. What we do is fair use, fair use, fair use. We mute it, we skip back to our video.
California, a violent storm and more. As you can see, it was done to the
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what he just said. Let's see if we could. Let's see if we can get
elephants landing in Peru and California, a violent storm and more. As you can see, it was done to the Right Honorable Aline Lord St. Helens, lead ambassador at the ports of Madrid and St. Petersburg. This work is respectfully inscribed by His Lordship, faithful and obliged humble servant, the author, March 20th, 1827. So we will primarily be looking at chapter 2, Strangers with Elephants arrive on the coast of Peru, their cruelty and brutality, terror of the natives. First, let's take a look at the introduction. And it says, the narratives of Marco Polo and Sir John Mandeville had warned the imagination of Columbus into a conviction that he could reach the East Indies by sailing westward. By the travels of those authors, it was taken then known what an immensely intensive empire was in the power of the Mongols, called also Tartars. When Columbus, on his arrival in the New World, inquired of some native respecting the boat of which they made their ornaments, they answered him, Kubanakan. It is produced in Cuba, and so full was his mind of Marco Polo and the East Indies that he imagined them to be. Speaking of the Grand Khan Kublai, or Kublai Khan, who was the Mongol Emperor of China and of more than half of the population of the globe. So you see, Marco Polo and Christopher Columbus knew of the Mongol vast and extensive empire. It was no secret in their times. Columbus already knew of the so-called New World, and his voyage was no accident. Page 52, elephants landing in Peru. And it says, this coast at the Cape, now called St. Helens, which is near the town of Porto-Viejo, those who have preserved this tradition from father to son say that these giants came by sea in the kind of rush boats made like large barks, that they were so enormously tall that from knee downward they were high as common men. So the story of Mongols or Tartary landing on the shores of Peru were passed down for generations by the indigenous people, and no doubt has been exaggerated or mystified, even though the Mongols were larger in size. After having landed at the Cape, they established themselves at a spot pointed out to them by the inhabitants and dug very deep wells throughout the rock, and which to this day supply excellent water. So the Mongols dug wells that still supply excellent water up to this day. These giants lived by rapine or rapine, meaning seizure of one's property, and desolated the whole country. They say that they were such gluttons that one would eat as much meat as 50 of the native inhabitants, and that for a part of their nourishment they caught a quantity of fish with nets. They massacred the men of the neighboring parts without mercy and killed the women by their brutal violation. The wretched Indians often tried to devise some means to rid themselves of these troublesome visitors.
Wait a minute. The wretched Indians. Now you're telling us about basically a race of giants, it sounds like, that are eating all the food, so on and so forth, and then you're going to still call the Indians wretched. This is what the Moors saw us at. Hello? Hello? Did we not read the title of that book? And did he not tell us what who the Mongols were? Northwestern Moors? Northwest African Moors? Did you hear what they refer to us as? Those who say they want to be a Moor? Did you hear what the Indians were referred to as? Wretched? You come into my shores calling me wretched, eating up my food. What did he said a lot. We're gonna go back. I'm sorry, because also I didn't have my caption. Now I don't know how that got turned off because I didn't turn it off. But I really want to go back, and I'm sorry about that. You gotta bear with me, please, because this video says it all. You know, it really does. It tells you who the Moors are. Basically, everybody outside of America. Okay, got started by these Moors. Okay, so I'm sorry. I want to go back because this book is saying he said a lot about, you know. So you could pause it if you want to read that, but I want to go back a little bit. Sorry. Okay, that's 13. I kind of want to remind us the time frame of this as well, because I think he's confused me just a little bit with the time, because the book is the 13th century, right? So that's interesting, you know, because he you know, I kind of want to catch that again. So how far do we need to go back? Will I spare you going back that far? At least to this page. But we do know what the book said, so I won't go back. The cover of the book, it was about the takeover of Peru and Mexico by the Mongols, and he did say something about the 13th century, the 1200s. Okay, so just to be clear, this is the time frame I believe we're in. So I want to go back a little bit. Let's go back to about here. Okay, so fair use again. Fair use.
Respecting the gold of which they made their ornament, they answered
The gold.
to Banaka. It is produced in Cuba. So
we had our own gold in Cuba.
The East Indies that he imagined them to be. Speaking of the Grand Khan Kublai, or Kublai Khan, who was the Mongol Emperor of China and of more than half of the population of the globe. So you see, Marco Polo and Christopher Columbus knew of the Mongol vast and extensive empire.
Well, that was a fast one. That was kind of a fast one, because he's saying the native said Cuba, and he assumed, we're gonna look at that again, but it sounds like he's assuming they're talking about Kublai Khan and shit. But that's not what they said, right? We gotta do this one again. Sorry. Fair use.
And they answered him, Ubanapan. It is produced in Cuba, and so full was his mind of Marco Polo and the East Indies that he imagined them to be. Speaking
Imagine
of the
them.
Grand Khan Kublai, or Kublai Khan, who was the Mongol Emperor of China and of more than half of the population of the globe. So you see, Marco Polo and Christopher Columbus knew of the Mongols.
Okay, so he knew of them, but that doesn't mean that that was who the natives were talking about, right? I don't think I'm hearing this correctly. But yeah, Marco Polo knew, and he assumed that that's what the natives were talking about, is what I'm hearing. Unless anyone hears something else. I kind of want to go back a little. I'm sorry, I'm going back. I'm sorry. I really want to get this, and I want us to try to get this, okay? My apologies. I know it's a little bit grueling. Okay, so let's do it. Fair use, because I really did want the closed captions to be on as well, even though some of it is not interpreting exactly right. He said good, but he meant gold, you know, the gold, where's the gold ornaments? And then the native said it came from Cuba. Okay. Okay, so fair use, but let's get that title. The New World. Okay. The Moors knew this was not the New World. They did not inform their mulatto offspring about that. So that's why these Spanish are calling us the New World. It's not really their fault. It's what they're being told by the Moors, who knew better. That is why the Moors are not your indigenous ass friend, okay? You got to be clear, okay? I don't care what they built. I don't care how great they were. Great don't always mean good. So fair use. I'm going to blow my nose real quick. Sorry. Excuse me. Excuse me. Sorry. Sorry. Fair use. Conquest of Peru, Mexico in the 13th century. That's what I wasn't seeing before. I'm sorry. Here we go. In the 13th century by the Mongols. So they're still coming in the 1200s. You see? So that's interesting. Okay. 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 I want to say something because, but I'll say it quickly, and then I don't know if I'll get into it. But I was reading about the Hyksos, and it's a very interesting piece on, because that kind of tells me that we did have mixed races here, at least in the 13th dynasty of Tameri. You know, I'm sorry, we have to go there. We got to figure this out. That's why we want a real life history. We don't want to go with Atlantis and all of that, Lemuria, Mu, and all of that, No, we don't know. We want to go with the recorded stuff. Okay, that's Tameri. That's ancient Tameri, otherwise known as Egypt. So that's why we want to keep it real. That's why I think it's so important to own that history, because what I learned, it kind of explained to me that we did have mixed races here as early as the 13th dynasty. But I think we're going to have to read that about the Hyksos, because this would explain by the time these Mongols came, there may have been the phenotype already here, you know, because we're just going to have to realize that the race mixing, it did probably start with an Asiatic man that looked like an Arab or a Mongol, and they were here in the Americas in Tameri as early. The Hyksos are spoken of in the 13th dynasty, okay? So this is why we have to look at that. When Horace Butler tells us that we have a 3400 BC history in America called Tameri, I know you have a problem with Tameri. I'm not sure why, but I have some ideas. Not convinced that it was in America. But he did tell us this. And my timeline video, America is the Old World, really, it should have helped with that. I hope it did. So, like it or not, the wonderful thing about it is it's a real history. It's a documented history. This is what we want. Like, again, we have a lot of our people that want to go with Sumeria. They think that's more legitimate. It's not. Sumeria is so pseudo that it blows my mind when I really think about all that we're hearing about Sumeria and this Enki and then little madness. You know, it's not more legitimate than Tameri, I promise you. They kept better records, you know. Yeah. So I see that a lot of us want to go with Sumeria legend. Then again, they want to go with the Moo. why make your life so much complicated by going with stuff that there's not enough evidence for? And then I will get critiqued because, oh, you always talk about Tom Murray. Yeah, because that's legitimate. It's real. And it's the oldest. And if we're going to call ourselves the oldest continent, which we are, I'm sorry, you got to own the oldest history. I'll say this all the time. People don't hear it. They just want going with this imaginary Indian that had nothing, that basically didn't have a developed culture. Just an Indian, they only want us because we're Indians. It was more than that. And it wasn't Moors. I'm going to say that whatever the Moors had, we had more of it because they're a break off from us. So they're just a fraction of what was going on in the Americas. They were the bad faction. They were the ones that were consumed completely with the idea of power and control. Okay. So I'm not saying we're the Moors, but I am saying we are the Tamarians. I have to. Why? Because that's real documented history. And now we find out that it was in Americas, we're going to use it. Why it's more legitimate than any other, than what we're going to find in Samaria. Or what? Again, Atlantis. You're not going to get anything from Atlantis that you can use. It's always going to be this toss up. Well, who were they? Here you got Tameri showing you the race. And nobody won. I don't understand the not wanting to investigate that when it's part of your history. Greeks don't disown Greek history. Romans don't disown Roman history. Mongolians don't disown Mongolian history. We're the only ones who do that. It's Tameri. This is not Tameri. This blah. You were something that was on the map, y'all. It wasn't fantasy. They didn't come to take you over because you were some fantasy. They're not trying to erase you because you were some fantasy. You don't have to erase a fantasy. You don't erase a fantasy. You erase that which was real. And I'm telling you, Tamari was real. I shouldn't have to defend it. I really shouldn't, but I do. I don't know what the Indians are basing putting their basis in. We had a high culture, y'all. We did. And I agree with us that we can't say it was Moorish because Moors did not exist as such back then. They were Tamarian. They would have been Tamarian. But again, once you get expelled, you're no longer considered welcome here. That's what it was. That's what my study is showing me. And so, okay, so fair use again. I'm sorry, we want the closed captions so we can read along. And I'm sorry for continuously bringing you back. this is so important that we get as much as we can get from what this man is so graciously offering us. So fair use, and we continue.
With extinct wild elephants in America, Mongols with elephants landing in Peru and California, a violent storm, and more. As you can see, it was done to the Right Honorable Aline Lord St. Helens, late ambassador at the ports of Madrid and St. Petersburg. This work is respectfully inscribed by His Lordship, faithful and obliged humble servant, the author, March 20th, 1827. So we will primarily be looking at chapter 2, Strangers with Elephants arrive on the coast of Peru, their cruelty and brutality.
Cruelty and brutality.
First,
The Moors, Mongol Moors.
said, the narratives of Marco Polo and Sir John Mandeville had warned the imagination of Columbus into a conviction that he could reach the East Indies by sailing westward. By the travels of those authors, it was taken then known what an immense, intensive empire was in the power of the Mongols, called also Tartar. When Columbus, on his arrival in the New World, inquired of some natives respecting the gold of which they made their ornaments, they answered him, Kubanakan, it is produced in Cuba. And so full was his mind of Marco Polo in the East Indies that he imagined them to be. Speaking of the Grand Khan Kublai, or Kublai Khan, who was the Mongol Empire of China and of more than half of the population of the
Stop again. I'm sorry, people. I gotta give you this when it comes to me, and I apologize. You see how the Spanish were already brainwashed? So a native says something to Marco Polo, and immediately he's going to a point of reference that he has that maybe the natives don't have. You know, he's assuming that they're talking about this Khan. How many assumptions are made based on the lies of the Moors to all these old world nations, quote unquote? Because remember, we're the new world. So that means Europe, Africa, Mongolia, they're considered the old world. So how many lies did the Moors have to tell for poor Marco Polo to think that he hears a native say Cuba and he immediately thinks of Kublai Khan and shit? Wait, hold up and wait a minute. You see how the narrative it fucks with their logic. That's what I just caught. But let's finish listening and see what he has to say. Fair use, fair use.
So you see, Marco Polo and Christopher Columbus knew of the Mongols' vast and extensive empire. It was no secret in their time. Columbus already knew of the so-called New World, and his voyage was no accident. Page 52, elephants landing in Peru, and it said, this coast at the Cape, known called St. Helens, which is near the town of Porto-Viejo, those who have preserved this tradition from father to son say that
father to son
in the kind of rough boats made like large barks, that they were so enormously tall that from knee downward they were high as common men. So the story of Mongols or Tartary landing on the shores of Peru were passed down for generations by the indigenous people, and no doubt has been exaggerated or mystified, even though the Mongols were larger in size.
Okay, I think I figured something out here. Now this is what my dilemma was, and I'm going to try to explain it to you. I was slow coming back to the video because I wasn't clear on something. Now they're crediting Peru with the Inca, right? But what I'm seeing is that Peru was infiltrated by Moors, right? They're going to say what they want to say about Machu Picchu or Jerusalem. And their narrative is going to be the one that everybody knows. this book, I realized what it helps me to do, what I was having a problem, why it took me this long to get to the video, because I was kind of confused at how to approach this. Because the task was, how do I explain what I'm seeing if I can't really show it to them? You know, like we had a slide on the Inca, and they're saying the Inca built Machu Picchu, whereas Horace Butler in When Rocks Cry Out, he's telling us that that is a 3,400-year-old structure. The Inca weren't around when Machu Picchu was built. Okay? But now I see why the invasion of Peru was so important. See, I didn't know that this Abu Bakari thing, I didn't know that it went into Peru, but that's what this book is saying. Because the okay. Let me see now, because I believe Abu Bakari was 1306. Okay, so this is actually a little before that period, right? So they were coming in as Mongols. Here we got it. I think I got it. The Mongols came in the 1200s, according to this. Well, he said the 13th century, so that's the 1200s, right? So that's happens before Abu Bakari. That is what I think I'm getting. Because Abu Bakari, we're going to look at the cover one more time. 1556. Okay, I want to look at the cover one more time. I'm sorry. I just want to get this breakdown. 1556. We go back to about 1556 after this. Okay, so in the 13th century, the 13th century is the 1200s. So we're not being told about he said in the beginning that this is not in the history books. It's in this book. I thought I bought this book, and I guess I still have to read it. Let me see. Do I have this book? Is it the same exact book that he's showing? I remember I thought I got to get this book. Let me see. I'm going to read it now. No, mine's is slightly different. Mine's is by William Prescott. It's called History of the Conquest of Mexico and the History of the Conquest of Peru. So it's a slightly different book. So yeah, it's not the exact same book. Aztecs. The Aztecs was none but the Moors. Okay. That was just some, you know. But I think we can say the Incas were too. You know, the Aztecs were more in the 1300s when Abu Bakr. So the Inca were in Machu Picchu. So this would explain, I think, who were behind the Inca. It had to, I'm thinking it was this group of people, this Mongols. They're coming in the 1200s. Abu Bakr is coming with the Aztecs, or he's infiltrating the Aztecs in the 1300s. So we have a 1200 and a third. So this is what we're adding to our list of invasions. This one, based on this book, this was the 1200s. That's when, but that's also when the 1200s. That is when the yes, we saw that's when the Mongol Empire. But those were, we found out they were Moors, right? So Islam did exist. It's just that it seems to me that the Mongols got a different religion. I don't think they got Islam as we know it. It seems like they're the ones that were into this dragon stuff. You know, they got a benevolent or a good dragon. But then the Moors, once they go against those kind of religions that included dragons, the dragon, we should know, becomes demonized in the Abrahamic religion. So they provide the Mongols with dragon deities, you know, and they also provided the indigenous with the dragon deities. The difference is, I think we even read that their deities were considered benevolent, but when you read about Amaru, as we did, we found out that he's basically a storm war deity. Amaru, Quetzalcoatl, and to the extent that Kublai Khan, Kublai Khan, whatever that deity is, to whatever extent that he's related to Amaru and Quetzalcoatl, he is also a storm, war, chaos deity. And the oldest deity that we know that is a serpent, this is why Tameri is important, because they will tell you who the deity is in his first manifestation. Meaning, anytime you see a serpent that is like a dragon, not the little serpents that are like they have on their head, you know, in their crowns and stuff. Not that serpent. We're talking about dragon level, winged serpents. That's malevolent. Now, the little serpents are not as malevolent in Tameri. They're not considered carte blanche malevolent. But a dragon deity who's also considered large, like a supersized, big ass dragon, that's a malevolent deity according to the most ancient traditions of Tameri. So yeah, I just wanted to say here that I guess this is where we have the takeover and the writing of Jerusalem, and now it's going to be said to be Incas, you know, that built it or whatever, you know, but they're coming at a time with these Mongols. So I might have to look and check out one more time when do our Incas you know, appear, because looks like they were infiltrated. What I'm trying to say is they would have been influenced by these Mongols in the 1200s. Okay, that's what I'm trying to get at. This is very good. This is what I needed. This is where my confusion was, because I couldn't quite figure out the Inca and Peru. I didn't want to come on here and tell you that the Inca built Machu Picchu when I already told you that Horace Butler lets us know that Palmarians built that. The first people that were here built that Machu Picchu, not the Incas, but they were common history is going to say the Incas built Machu Picchu or Jerusalem. But I'm seeing where again where the infiltration is coming is right here, the Mongols. So the Inca were infiltrated by Mongols, and they're not the original Tamarians, is what I believe I'm seeing here. So I did say I would go back forward to about the 1556, I think it was. So we'll go about here. It's about, we just want to get a snapshot of that when this is taking place. You know, how did these Mongols take over? And now we're hearing about Inca, and we got to look at I do want to look at the Inca time frame after this. Okay, fair use. We're going to pick up about 15, right? let's start. Yeah, let's go straight for the. How about that? Okay, fair use, fair use.
Accident. Page 52. Elephants landing in Peru. And it said, this coast at the Cape, known called St. Helens, which is near the town of Puerto Viejo, those who have preserved this tradition from father to son say that these giants came by sea in the kind of rush boats made like large barks, that they were so enormously tall that from knee downward they were high as common men. So the story of Mongols or Tartary landing on the shores of Peru were passed down for generations by the indigenous people, and no doubt has been exaggerated or mystified, even though the Mongols were larger in size. After having landed at the Cape, they established themselves at a spot pointed out to them by the inhabitants and dug very deep wells throughout the rock, and which to this day supply excellent water. So the Mongols dug wells that still supply excellent water up to this day. These giants lived by rapine or rapine, meaning seizure of one's property, and desolated the whole country. They say that they were such gluttons that one would eat as much meat as 50 of the native inhabitants, and that for a part of their nourishment they caught a quantity of fish with nets. They massacred the men of the neighboring parts without mercy, and killed the women by their brutal violation. The wretched Indians often tried to devise some means to rid themselves of these troublesome visitors, but they never had either sufficient force or courage to attack them. I don't know why they would refer to the so-called Indians as wretched or wretched. However, they were no match for the Mongols' force. In this poetry, it depicts a taxidermy of an elephant displayed in America in the late 1800s to early 1900s. Not sure of the location, but could possibly be the World's Expo that was held in Chicago. Peru, like the rest of the New World, was originally possessed by small independent tribes, differing from each other in manners and in their forms of food policy. All, however, are said to have been so little civilized that they must be classed among the most uneducated savages of America.
This is what the Moors are telling the world about us, okay? They knew better. This is why we don't want to call ourselves all lovey-dovey with the Moors. You're out of your mind. I'll just say it that way. You are out of your rabbit ass mind. Look what they're telling the world about us. They're not correcting this. Okay? We were not uncivilized. We were the first civilization. If anything, we might have been ravaged by the war that sent the Moors out of America. And so, yeah, we break up into tribes, but that's not how we were. We were just in a state of like we were almost like leaderless, you know? But I guess by this time, you know, there were, again, as I was saying before, we're going to read about the Hyksos. And that's going to help us to understand that we had already been infiltrated by different races. But what happened is they allowed the races to live among us. But later on, you know, when, say, for instance, now we had mixed races in the Hyksos in Tamari. Now, they're a gentle people we're going to read, basically. But we have the 18th dynasty saying that they were these horrible people that overtook our land, and that's not true. They lived peacefully with us. We're going to have to look at that. If I don't get to it today, we'll definitely get to it first thing next time, but I really would like to get to it today. Because this explains the race mixing, which I have to say, I think we did have a other race here in, as far back as, again, the 13th dynasty. And the 13th dynasty, I think that would have been about, was that like 1500 BC maybe? No, wait a minute, wait. No. It was before that, I think. I gotta look that up. Let me see if I could quickly Google that just to get it, because I know that seems to be where we have a race difference among the Tarmarians. Okay, so let's see, the 15th, what century was the 13th 15th dynasty? I think the 15th dynasty, 15th dynasty. The 15th dynasty was about 1650 BC. The 15th, 16th, and 17th dynasty of ancient Egypt or Tamari are often combined under the group title Second Intermediate Period. So we had different races here in Tamari as far back as at least 1650 BC, according to what I'm looking at. The Hyksos, 15th dynasty rulers of Egypt. Let's see if we can do a quick reading of this, because this is where the races began to change in our land. Now, boy, oh boy. The Hyksos who ruled during the 15th dynasty of ancient Tamari were not foreign invaders, but a group who rose to power from within, according to a study published July 8th, 2020. I'm sorry, I'm reading from ScienceDaily.com. I might link it. That's ScienceDaily.com. The name of the article is Hyksos, 15th dynasty rulers of ancient Tamari, which would have been in the Americas, were an internal takeover, okay? But I do believe these were probably your first, I want to say Arabic for some reason. They were not like us. They were not, it was internal, but it was where the race genetic altering must have happened. They were not the same as Tamarians. That's all I'm going to say. But this is saying they were internal, so that means they were genetically altered here in Tamari. Okay. According to a study published July 8th, 2020 in the open access journal PLOS One by Chris Stantis of Bournemouth University, UK, and colleagues. The Hyksos were a foreign dynasty. So they were foreign. You hear that? They were not one of us in Tamari. But the 18th dynasty is demonizing these, because we read it was the 15th, 16th, and 17th dynasties that were Hyksos ruled. That's what we first read. Oh boy. Okay. The Hyksos were a foreign dynasty that ruled parts of Egypt between approximately 1638 and 1530 BCE. They're still very, very new. We remember, we go back to 3400 BC. Okay, so this is 1600 and 1500 like BC. The first instance of Egypt being ruled by individuals of a foreign origin. The common story is that the Hyksos were invaders from far off land, but this idea has been drawn into question. Yes, this is what I was reading earlier, but not from this source. Archaeological evidence does link Hyksos culture with an origin in the Near East. See, now they're going with Africa the Egypt in Africa. So no, we're not doing that. The Hyksos eventually rose to power after living for generations in Tamari. This is the first study to use archaeological chemistry to address the origins of the Hyksos rulers. But the authors note that the more investigations and broader chemical techniques will be needed to identify the specific ancestries of the Hyksos and other non-local residents of Egypt or Tamari. Stantis adds, archaeological chemistry, specifically isotopic analysis, shows us first-generation migration during a time of major cultural transformations in ancient Egypt. Rather than the old scholastic theories of invasions, we see more people, especially women, migrating to Egypt before Hyksos rule, suggesting economic and cultural changes leading to foreign rule rather than violence. Women migrating to Egypt before Hyksos rule. So the Moors, or what would become the Moors, the priesthood, are bringing in foreign women, is what this article seems to be saying. And their children are the Hyksos. So they were ingrown, in-house grown, okay? Oh boy. But what is interesting is that the 18th dynasty comes along and Akhenaten is seen as a heretic, right? So the Hyksos were not seen as heretics, Akhenaten was, but he's creating a narrative of very invasive Hyksos that now they're saying it's not true. The Hyksos were like homegrown, internal foreigners. What does that mean, y'all? What does that mean? Is it sort of like when they send Ukrainians here or something like that? Is that what they're kind of talking about here? They were internal. So then say now the Ukrainians come and breed with us, and now we have a whole people that don't look like us. This is what they do with in our land, America, with our people, or they hope to do. So that was, I'm glad I read that, because that's basically what I was going to show you. I read that because I want to establish that here we're talking about the 1200s, right? So we have already had a mixing of people way before 1200. That would have been CE, AD, not BC. So yes, we have already had a mixing in Tamari. I mean, it is said that we expelled the mixed multitude, including Akhenaten. So did everyone get expelled, right? Did we still have some foreigners here, enough that perhaps by the time these Mongolians arrive in 1200, there's a kinship perhaps with these people? Perhaps, I don't know. We supposing, but I guess I'm trying to say is that we did have the hit, like we just read, they were a foreign, but they were not in foreign invaders. So we got to figure out what that means. They said women came. We read something about rather than the old scholastic theories of invasion, we see more people, especially women, migrating to Tameri before Hyksos rule. Oh boy. So women came, foreign women. Where did they come from though? See, they're not saying, they're saying instead of invasion, we see more people, especially women, migrating to Egypt before Hyksos rule, suggesting economic and cultural changes leading to foreign rule rather than violence. So they were foreigners, but they had become so adjusted to our culture, yet they were internal foreigners somehow. They, they're saying the women, they were born of women that were not indigenous women, is what I think I'm reading. We have to figure out what they're saying. I really don't know what they're trying to tell us, but it's something very pivotal, I think. Okay, so I think we have much longer with this video. It's a 23-minute video. We're almost through. So fair use, and we're gonna, continue. Sorry for stopping, but let's continue. Fair use.
By strong independent tribes, differing from each other in manners and in their forms of policy. All, however, are said to have been so little civilized that they must be classed among the most unequal savages of America, roaming about naked in the forest.
Hmm.
They state when we are told there appeared on the banks of the Lake Titicaca a man and woman of majestic form, clothed in ancient garments. They were persons of excellent shape and beauty, and the dresses they wore were such as continued afterward the usual habits of the Incas, by which title they described themselves. The names of these personages were Mongol, who after
I think I got something here. So they're saying the Incas took after these people, right? Okay. And that's what I think I just heard. Now the Incas, they saying were these wild ass natives, but there suddenly appeared a man and a woman in fine blah blah blah. These are the Moors, the invaders. It's such a reversal because so help me, America was the first civilization, y'all. It was the first civilization. It's just that by the shenanigans of the Moors, no one got to know who we were. So then they send their offspring, and the offspring are coming to us as if they think that we're the savages, you see. All I know is it's not the truth, that we were not savages. We were where the Moors were expelled from, is what my studies is showing me. So all that glitters is not gold. I'm saying that whatever the Moors were, we were that and more. Because again, they break off from us, but we let them go for a reason. We were not impressed with what they thought of as greatness, and we were not impressed with how they went about using their greatness. We kicked their asses out. Their greatness was at the cost of our ancestors. They didn't want to go by the old ways. They were mixing blood, mixing races, mixing species, whatever. And that was against everything that we knew to be of just natural, law in terms of interspecies, But the the ones who became the Moors, they didn't care. They were, like the brother said, they would stop at nothing for total control. So there was no scripture, no deity, no God that was going to stop them. If anything, they were going to go with a malevolent deity, so that what they did was, it was condoned by the malevolent deity. So they gave up their virtues for power, meaning it was no longer about playing fair or playing by anybody's rules. It was about changing the rules and doing whatever it takes, coming up against any of our most sacredly held tenets for the sake of total domination. This is what the Moors are about. You could see it to this day. You can see it. The pride, the arrogance, what they take pride in. You know, we were highly civilized, but you were the most savage when it came to stealing, birthrights, forced conversion. You didn't care about bloodline. You were every bloodline, right? So that no longer mattered to you. You would use any bloodline you can get into to come up against the original bloodline. That's what you became about. We don't advocate violence against Moors. Most of the Moors we see are just indigenous who've been brainwashed. The top dogs can't stand us. And that's the thing that our indigenous Moors don't understand. They ain't your friends. They're not your friends. Look at how they described us in this book that we're reading right now. Okay? So the Incas were seen a certain type of way, and I think we're gonna go back and let's hear it again. Fair use.
In a person of excellent shape and the dresses they were such as continued afterward the usual habits of the Incas, by which title they describe themselves. The names of these personages were Mongol, who afterward received upon subjects the title of Kapak, which means sole emperor, splendid, rich in virtue. And
Oh Lord, oh Lord. Oh Lord, oh Lord. Well, we gotta read this again, y'all. We gotta hear this again.
Like the rest of the New World, was possessed by small independent tribes, differing from each other in manner in their forms of policy. All, however, are said to have been so little civilized that they must be felt.
The point is, we were still one people. Now you see how they break us up? Small little tribes. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, we were minding our business. We were all indigenous. But here you come and you talk about we were small little tribes. That's our business, yo. You won't belong here. Now, I'm not talking to the reader, the brother who's breaking this down for us. I'm just talking about the people he's reading about. Look how they see us, small little tribes. So what? Little independent tribes. So what? That don't give you a right to come in and judge us. Talking about how we dress. So what? We had the wealth that you were coming for. Remember, they were asking them where they got that gold, right? The indigenous said it was Cuba. But they're going to associate it with Kublai Khan. He said Cuba. That's his landmass. Cuba is part of the Americas. He got the gold from his own land. trust, the Kublai Khan didn't bring no freaking gold. If he came, he was coming for the gold. Okay, let's not get it twisted. So that indigenous was telling you where he got his gold from. It was part of his own landmass, right? But Marco Polo assumed that Kublai Khan, the Khan gave it to him, the Kuba. That's how they just write us off. That was our goal, okay? So let's continue. Fair use. I just want y'all to catch how these this book is the Moors invasion, right? But the Mongols, and he told us who the Mongols was, right? They was North African Moors, right? The brother, he just laid it out for you. So who's saying that we are savages here? That would be the Moors. And y'all want to be Moors. You think they're your friends. They run around telling the world that you are savage, and you think that that's your brother. He don't need you. In fact, he created a whole world to come against you. And we are foolish enough to, it's that descriptive term. Yeah, and it's describing some bullshit. Fair use.
Chicago, Peru, like the rest of the New World, was originally possessed by small independent tribes, differing from each other in manners and in their forms of rule policy. All, however, are said to have been so little civilized that they must be classed among the most unequal savages of America, roaming about naked in the forest. They were still in
Have mercy.
when we are told there appeared on the banks of the Lake Titicaca a man and woman of majestic form and clothed in decent garments. They were persons of excellent shape and beauty, and the dresses they wore were such as continued afterward, the usual habits of the Incas, by which title they described themselves. The names of these personages were Mongol, who afterward received from his subjects the title of Kapak, which means sole emperor, splendid, rich in virtue, and that of his wife, who is said to have been his sister, was Kaya Mama Owella Oahu. Mango and Kaya Mama told the first people who came about them that they were children of the sun and moon, and that their father, taking pity of the miserable condition of mankind, had sent them to reclaim them from their savage life, to give them laws, and to teach them. This is clearly letting you know that the first emperor and the empress were Mongol Kapat and Mama Oahu, who were Mongol or Moors or Tartary.
Listen.
When they first set foot at the Lake of Titicaca, they told the indigenous people that they were the children of the sun and the moon. Sounds familiar? So the one supreme is represented by the moon, and the father, mother, and child, with the child representing the sun, not the S-O-N.
Did y'all catch what the Moors just did with the Inca? So what am I saying? The Inca will infiltrate it. They were given the gods from these Moors. Okay. We don't hear of the Inca worshiping it's the Inca. Wasn't it them who was worshiping Amaru? Or was that the Aztecs? One of them. We'll try to look at that. So as you see, they're being influenced by a Moorish Mongol, but they're not given, at that point, they're not even given the Allah deity, right? They're given the dragon, right? So that's what the Mongol Empire was about, right? Dragons and stuff. But they're still Moors. So what are they doing? Well, they are creating different cultures that they can later come and say, y'all was heathen. But you gave me these deities. Y'all gave the Mongols them deities. You see what the Mongols were, right? North African Moors, right? So who gave them the Mongols them dragon deities, boo? Was the Moors. So they play both sides, y'all. They always do. They will set up a war, and you'll think, well, hey, let's not even go with the wars. Let's go with the government, the Democrats and the Republicans. It's Moors on both sides, y'all. Okay? They create the dramas so that they can create the solution to the dramas. And what is the solution? Okay, so we have the Twin Towers go down. What's the solution? The Patriot Act. What's the Patriot Act? I'm all in your coffee. I'm all in your Kool-Aid. We ain't worried about no outside foreigners. We looking at you citizens side eye. We want to watch you. Why do you want to watch me so much? Do you think what intel told you that we wanted to take down those towers, especially when Nasara and Jassara was just about to announce debt relief that you guys just don't want to give up, right? So why would we want to destroy or be seen as internal terrorist or whatever? We wouldn't have done that. You had an interest in doing that, again, because of Nasara Jassara. Look how long they are putting off making shit right when the opportunity comes along and we think we could do business with them. Again, we're not advocating violence. We're just going to tell it like it is as much as we can. These Moors ain't your friends. Are you kidding me? How are you at the bottom and the Moors your friend? How so? When they went all around the world, creating every other freaking nation on the globe. Well, it's not a globe. On the planet. So sorry. Okay, so we got a few more minutes to go. My screen, I don't know why it's showing me. I don't want to see my screen sharing thing here. Excuse me. Okay. So yeah, look what we're gonna just hear this again because he's saying it and you gotta catch it because a man and a woman appear. And from that point on, the Incas are dressing like these people, is what I think I heard. Tell me what you heard. They're taking after these finely dressed, mysterious couple that appear that are married brother and sister or some crap. They're royals, right? Royals are not your friends. When they come and they think that you're savages, watch the fuck out, okay? Watch out. It's about to go down. They're gonna quote unquote civilize. It's called civilization via slavation. They're about to make you a subject, boo. That's what they're gonna do. Okay, so let's go back a little bit because he's saying a lot, y'all. I hope you're catching it. I know I'm stopping, but I have, the closed captions on. It's not the greatest translator or teleprompt or whatever you want to call it, closed caption, but I think you can kind of see what they're saying. Okay, so fair use again. I'm sorry, I have to go back because he's saying a lot. Fair use.
What could possibly be the World Expo that was held in Chicago, Peru. Like the rest of the New World, was originally possessed by small independent tribes, differing from each other in manners and in their forms of food policy. All, however, are said to have been so little civilized that they must be classed among the most uncouth, roaming about naked in the forest. They were still in this state when they were told They appeared on the banks of the lake Titiaba, a man and woman of majestic form, clothed in decent garments. They were persons of excellent shape and beauty, and the dresses they wore were such as continued afterwards the usual habits of the Incas, by which title they described themselves. The names of these personages were Mongol, who afterwards received from the subjects the title of Kapak, which means sole emperor.
Subjects.
Rich in virtue, and that of his wife, who is said to have been his sister, was Kaya Mama Owella Oahu. Mongo and Kaya Mama told the first people who came about them that they were children of the sun and moon, and that their father, taking pity of the miserable condition of mankind, had sent them to clean them from their
Oh,
life,
Lord, Lord.
their thoughts, and to teach
Oh,
them.
no.
This is clearly letting you prove that the first emperor and empress were Mongol apart, and Mama Wako, who were Mongol or Moors or Thai.
Moors.
When they first set foot at the lake of Titiapa, they told the indigenous people that they were the children of the sun and the moon. Sounds familiar? So the one supreme God is represented by the moon, and the father, mother, and child, with the child representing the sun, not the S-O-N, the S-U-N. So that's the people from Northwest Africa and the people from the region now called the Middle East. This painting can be found in the Lapo Museum in Peru. It depicts the 14 Inca emperors, including Manco Capac, with Charles V being the first European Inca emperor, and the 15th, standing on the extreme left, is Manco Capac, and standing on the right is Baba Oahu. A closer view shows Manco Capac and Baba Oahu, who are clearly Negroid. Not the best of visuals, but there you go. Page 60. Kaya Mama teaches spinning. Mama Wako taught them how to build houses and to fool themselves. Kaya Mama taught
This
them
is bullshit.
wood. They were both obeyed like children of the sun, sent from heaven to govern the people. So Mama Wako taught the indigenous
Obeyed.
civilized
Ah.
very extensive in building, astrology, farming, and here we have a picture of the expo held in Chicago. No, these buildings were built by the Moors slash Mongols that can never be duplicated by builders today. So high school and universities in America were built by the Mongols, the Moors that are still in use today. That historical building called the Alamo, located in San Antonio, Texas, was built by the Moors or Mongols. Mongo assembled all his Kurakas and told them that his father, the son, had commanded him to extend his institutions and orders as far as he was able for the good and happiness of mankind. And for this purpose, with armed troops to go to those outer parts which had not yet
Armed
been visited,
troops.
and to reduce them to their observance, that the son had commanded him not to hurt or offend those who would submit to him, and thereby accept of the good and happiness thus offered by divine bounty, but to distress only such as refuse, without killing any except those who assailed them, and then it would be just to do so in their own defense. So,
Do we believe that bullshit? Think of the situations, the several situations where you have the authorities doing what they do, right? Now they will say that they were assaulted first, right? Do we know that to be the truth? This is what they do, y'all. Come on, this is clearly this is a tactic, right? So they're coming to bring civilization, but they're going to kill you if you don't go with their civilization. You see, never changed. somehow I don't see the Inca as being the real indigenous. I feel like what they do similar to what they did in colonial America, North America, when so you have King James dump a bunch of people that look like us here, right? He is busy ruling that ass of the people that he dumped here, who happen to look like us. Did this not, or is it not the same thing that happened with the Inca? Were we here watching as these people arrive that look like the Inca, and we get caught in the crossfire as they claiming dominion over the people that they sent here? But then they tell a story, and the story sounds like they're talking about us because these people might look like us. This is what happened in North America, y'all. King James dumped a bunch of European Africans here, or African Europeans here. They are dominated by the king, but then the king acts like he don't know the difference between his subjects and the American Indian. Then we all get lumped together as quote unquote colored. Next thing you know, it's just assumed that we're one of these foreigners. They start writing up laws for quote unquote United States citizens. They create a whole new set of civil codes that deal with blacks and whites. The Constitution didn't say anything about blacks and whites. So once you create that 14th Amendment citizen, now you have to create a whole new set of laws that apply to black people and white people. Both are basically subjects to the 14th Amendment, right? That's why we're not in the Constitution. Once we became United States citizens, we became black and white, not free persons and Indians. Okay, so is this what happened with the Incas? Were we right there watching as these invaders came and started, then the history became all about these Incas, and rewritten to show that they were foreigners, or they were civilized by the Mongols. This is such an important piece to our puzzle. I needed to figure out the Inca. So now I really do have to revisit my Inca. That's why I didn't really want to show, I did show the Inca slide, but I was very reluctant because they had Machu Picchu. And I know that we discussed Horace Butler saying that Machu Picchu was built as early as the 3400 BC, and not when the Incas show up in the 1200s, all infiltrated by these Mongols that we just read about. A man and a woman calling themselves the sun and the moon, or the moon and the, what was it, this whatever, and their child is whatever. How arrogant. But let's continue. Fair use. I'm gonna go back just a little.
Or offend those who submit to him, and thereby accept of the good and happiness, thus offered by divine bounty.
Divine bounty.
Distress only such as refuse.
Distress those that refuse. Without killing.
Just to do so.
Yeah, okay.
So, the Mongol warrior, who was the founder and the first emperor of the Inca Empire, extended his orders and administration as far as possible of what they perceived as enlightening the people. Anyone who is refusing to adhere is under the sword, according to the Mongol, for the indigenous people's own good. No,
for our own good.
To the 19th century, and possibly the early 1900s. This poetry depicts a Moorish Mongol American soldier, never seen by most until now, and a Mongol Moorish uniform on display. Join me again on the Mongols in America as it gets more interesting. That's it for today. Thanks for watching. See you soon. Take care.
This was priceless. And I did get to speak to the wonderful brother. We had a nice exchange under one of his videos. Re-educated TV. Please do subscribe if you find his channel. I might link it. I might try to link it. And he will be notified that I'm using his video. So I hope when he watches this, he's I've done him proud, because I really have no problem with what he's telling us. Now, we might not agree about the Moors and how they are actually interfacing with us, which is not in a very respectful manner. As you see, we were put to the sword, even by this majestic man and woman who appear to bring civilization. But if you don't, we'll kill you. That's not civil, y'all. This is what the Moors call civilization, okay? Get it? Get with it. You got to know how they really roll. All our brothers who want to be Moors, and you're so blinded by their glory. But you got it. Once the stardust falls from your eyes and you hear what this brother just said, I could never co-sign on this bullshit. If they were our brethren, like they claim to be, we would have been ruling with them, okay? Not what we just read, or what we with this excuse me, royal couple coming. Your forefathers sent us to bring you civilization, but if you don't submit, we kill you. That's how they did us, y'all. And if they're doing this to their own people in that theory, then if they do that to their own people, what the hell will they do to us? Or what are they going to try? Again, think of King James. He sends his people here. All of a sudden, the Indians are misplaced and mistaken to be colored. Now, he's already slaving his own people. What you think he's going to try to do to you? His people is already seen as subjects. He's sending us the excrement from his country, vagabonds or prisoners, whatever. The worst of the worst, he's sending to us, right? And we think he mean us well. Okay, from there, we want to, that video was incredible. He did an incredible job with that video, man. Oh my gosh, he did an incredible job. Thank you, Re-Educated. I hope I hope that you're okay with me using your video, mirroring your video. It was everything. It was the piece I needed. Great. Okay. So now we want to, is this where, okay, so we just read about the Inca, right? That was all about the Inca, right? And we saw that Inca was all up in here. So then it's not the Inca that they're saying, because that picture, is it? Wait, it is. It's just, this is a different slide. So somewhere in there, they're given this Amaru, right? Amaru, right? That's coming from this infiltration by the Mongols that we just read about. Okay. I don't know if we have to read all of this again, but here is where we are told the very questionable traits of Amaru. He's about sudden change in the natural world. When things happen suddenly in the natural world, it's usually not very pleasant. It's very destructive. Tornadoes, hurricanes, lightning, you know. Nature tends, I said it once before, tends to move kind of slow. She kind of chill. So when she acts suddenly like that, it's usually not the greatest thing. So you have a deity that represents that coming out of the depths, rising from hell. Rain, the Amaru was seen as the bringer of revolutions, rain, and the winds of change. Okay. Amaru is morally ambiguous or malevolent, sometimes fighting and killing, according to some myths. They did not have the interests of humans at heart. We want to say America is named after this kind of deity that don't have the interest of humans at heart. That's Amaru. You think we would name our country after a deity like this? Think again. Like Chinese dragons, okay, now we're getting the Mongols, right? They did not have the interest of heart like Chinese dragons, Mongol dragons did, and were not wicked beings that needed to be slain like European dragons. So we said in the last video, Europeans slay dragons. Okay, that's what the Moors are teaching them about dragons. With the Chinese, they're teaching them, you know, they had the humans' interest at heart. But come to the Inca, and Amaru is all these things. Rain and winds of change, represents sudden and sometimes violent overturning of the established order. Chaos, that's a chaos deity. Amaru teaches the value of revolution by using his energy to balance the world with earthquakes, floods, storms, and fires. Why would we revere this type of deity? It said that they didn't get the same dragon that the Chinese got or the Europeans got. We got this motherfucker. The lightning. Amaru shows the link between sky and the other world through lightning. They're trying to dress up some pretty way of saying this treacherous deity means good. No, it don't. No, it don't. In fact, Apep, which is who he really is, was an enemy of the sun. Apep was the dragon that had to be fought every morning for Ra to shine. This is who this deity really is. You want to know why you always talk about Chimeri? Because that's where I learned who these deities were. Because those were the first representations of these deities. That's why Chimeri is everything when you want to claim first place. You can't do it with a sunken place like Atlantis. So we just read about the Incas. Were they ever made into Islam? No, right? So this was their religion. This was their thing. So who brought it to them? We just was told that the Mongols did. And who were the Mongols? North, West African Moors. Okay, so this is what they got from the Moors, okay? A malevolent deity. And you think these Moors is your friends? So what was the other? Yeah, okay, so yeah. Here's another representation of a dragon deity. Set. I tell you that this is the oldest malevolent deity, but Apep was even more malevolent than Set, because Set actually would help Ra fight this Apep, this dragon. But I think what happened is he kind of had the same traits as Apep. Well, they're saying he's the most evil of the Egyptian gods, or Tamarian, associated with chaos, confusion, and bad weather. We need to, or we can't highlight it. We don't got our little editing tools. Okay, because this is not a PDF. Okay. Bad weather. What did we just read about just now? Rain, the winds of change, storm, lightning, earthquakes. What we got going on here? Yes, sudden change in the natural world, bringer of revolutions, killing, didn't have the best interests of humans at heart. It's just a lot, y'all. Storms, floods, lightning. This it's either APEP or this dude here. But I want to say that APEP is even worse, but he has the same representations as APEP, unfortunately. Again, I always tell you he murdered Osar. The Greeks called him Osiris. He murdered Osar. This is the deity that our enemies are catering to, okay? This is the one who is the bringer of chaos, creates chaos. You might create chaos when, for instance, you go to around the world and you give them different deities. So, as we read, the European dragons, Europeans killed dragons. That's why they have a lot of dragon slayer type of movies and all that stuff. So they're saying Europeans killed what we just read. They killed dragons. So the Moors teaching them that dragons are bad, right? The Chinese, they had the good dragons that helped humans. So that's creating chaos. This is the god of chaos. So the Moors are going around giving everybody different deities, right? So what god are they serving? That would be this god, y'all. They don't, I know they don't understand that, okay? I'm telling you. This is it, y'all. Appeared with a forked tail and hooves. Oh, I never saw that on him, but a snout, a scary head, and sometimes took the shape of other monstrous animals, maybe like a dragon. But yes, he's associated with chaos, confusion, bad weather. He's a storm god. He's the one who murdered his brother. We just read about these two people that come in peace, right? But if you don't agree with us, we're going to kill you. That's murder, y'all. Murder. This is the deity that does that. Osar, his brother, was not about that. Who is Heru? Heru is the son of Osar. This deity tried to take Heru's place in the legend. So Heru wins against this deity. He gets his legacy back. He gets his birthright back. That's why I align my energy with the energy of Heru, because this is what I know to be the fight of American Indians. We want our birthright back. We're not going to get it with a Jesus. Jesus is going to say, you know, turn your cheek and all of that, you know. Now, I'm not saying he's not good for other things. If you must, I choose not to. But if you must, there's some other things that he offers, but he's not going to help you get your legacy back, okay? He's not going to help you get your birthright back. He's going to say submit to your master. Okay, so that's unless it's the Christ within you. Now that's a different thing. If you're going with the Christ within you. Now, I tried to say before, this is what I am more about that than any external Christ. Excuse me. I'm not saying that I've aced it, but that is the goal. Okay. Okay, so now we got a little stuff here to go. I wanted to find who's being credited with I know it's over here somewhere. The building, it was the Aztecs. Is that the Aztecs? Okay, no, they're the babies. They just all
completely you know bitches of the of the Moors. Okay, that's how I see it. They're the youngest one, and one of these empires did not even have writing. Okay, Inca. See, this is what did not say. So okay, so the Inca, they're being credited, but as we read, so the Incas, that's what I wanted, the time frame. So if they flourished between 1400 and 1533, they were already infiltrated. As we saw the title of that book, it took place in the 13th century, the 1200s. So what were the Inca? They were infiltrated by the Mongolian Moors, and that's the puzzle I needed to show that they're being lied to. We're being lied about them building this. Is one thing. They did not build this, okay? This dates before 1400. They did not build this. That what we're looking at, Jerusalem, it predates Inca. Okay, it predates Inca. If they flourished and that was their civilization, I'm telling you right now, that picture of Jerusalem is way before the 14th. They did not build it, y'all. And that's the trouble I was having. I was saying, I got to do this video, but how am I going to explain to the listener that this does not belong to Inca? How could I show that to them? How could I prove it to them? Well, one, we see that they were infiltrated in the 1200s. That book that we just read, The Invasion of Peru and Mexico, that's happening in the 1200s. So they were already overtaken by those two Mongols that came, right? And they're going to be given a new history. It's going to be said that they built with the help of those Mongols, no doubt, because they are all called civilized, uncivilized, right? So they don't know how to build this shit. They running around half naked, right? That is what I needed. Thank you, ancestors. I could not approach this video until I could fix that problem, and I think it was all there. I didn't even know it was there in that video. Something kept telling me I got to show this video. I got to show this video. I didn't realize a lot of my answers were hidden in that video that we just watched. So Incas, they flourished in the 1400s. And that's even after Abu Bakari, right? So this is all infiltrated stuff. So now we could say, if we want to go with Abu Bakari, some people say that didn't happen, but that would have been in 13. Oh, wait a minute now. Was that? No, it wasn't BC, right? No, it wasn't BC. That was AD. Yep. Nope. It was around this time. It was in the 1300s. So we have like if we go with, if we believe the Abu Bakr, then we're gonna have to say that, yeah, that it was all infiltrated. Now the Aztecs would have been infiltrated by Abu Bakr, okay, but the Inca were infiltrated by the Mongols. Okay, we got it now. Yay, we got it. Okay, we got it. That was the piece that we needed. Okay, I'm so glad that this is all I want to show you about the Inca, because I think we did cover them. Yeah. So yeah, what more concrete ocular evidence has revealed first settlements in Cusco. Okay. Valley actually date to 450 BCE. There we go with that dubious dating. That's before writing, okay? Writing was in 3100 BC with Egyptian hieroglyphs. The Maya pick it up around 2000 BC. That's after Tameri, the Egyptian, after. And their writing is also called hieroglyphs.
but it's a knockoff of the original hieroglyph, which again started in Tameri, which was that would have been like the the Peru Mexico area in 3100 BC is when so this is dubious dating here. If anything, now you're going into Tameri time, okay? Because there's nothing, there's no writing back in 4500 BCE. That's the dubious dating that the lady was talking about, okay? This I thought was interesting. Let's see if we can blow this up just to get a little idea.